Hey, we're live. We're live. I believe we're live. Let me just check. Is this mic on? Welcome to Massive Iron Live. I'm Steve Shaw. It is March 26th, 2021. This morning I was entering a form to gain access to some, web crap that I was exploring, and I put in 2020. So I'm still a little bit confused with what year it is. I imagine that comes with being old. So
that qualifies you to be president of the United States, doesn't it, Steve? Cognitive impairment?
yeah,
Boom, there we go. All right, we're done.
I'm thinking like I feel so bad for the guy because wow, we're getting right into it off the start here. I feel bad for the guy because like if you with a cognitive issue, they generally don't make fun of him. It's like that poor guy needs help, but instead we put him as president of the United States and make fun of him. So, welcome to Massive Iron Live. I'm Steve Shaw. I'm joined with Robert Chinetsky, the supplement engineer. That's that guy over there. We'll be on for as long as you guys have questions. Post up your questions, diet training, supplementation, nutrition, off topic, whatever you have. We're here to help. Sometimes questions do not post. So if your question doesn't come through, try shortening the question or heading over to Instagram at Ben the Barman or at the Supplement Engineer to submit your question. A couple of housekeeping notes. I'm finalizing the labels for Massive Creatine Plus this weekend. We got everything all set to go. Once that is done, the labels will be manufactured, the products will be put together and shipped out. So we're looking at probably 2 to 3 weeks. Would you say, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, he's got all the stuff and running it. So once we ship the labels, we send the labels to the printers give it to the manufacturer, and then they're off to the races. We're good to go.
Yeah, so it is soon. And we're changing around a few things. We're looking at having an app developed where people can go on and have access to all my workouts, access to Robert's information, etc. So stay tuned for that exciting extravaganza. So let us know where you guys are from, where you're watching from. Post up your questions on anything, please. Diet training, nutrition, supplementation, off topic. We'll take all questions. And we'll stand as long as you have questions. So, Robert, before we begin, any hot topics in the industry on your mind today? Anything that you've been thinking a lot about, or anything new that you've come across?
As far as Sandy and I touched on this a little bit yesterday, and this is the kind of bullshit that really just irritates me about the supplement industry. It's genius from a marketing task, so props to this Canadian company for doing it. So we're all familiar with the concept of dry scooping a pre-workout or any kind of supplement. You basically take the powder, take the scooper, go bonk like that. You take a little swig of water and down it goes.
Right.
There's a Canadian supplement company that has come out with a pre-workout called Dry Scoop. And it's, I don't know, like a 13, 14, 15 gram scoop, something like that. And they say they put in special optimized digestive enzymes to accelerate digestion in the mouth, or to make sure your body starts digesting it in the mouth. And so they've specifically marketed this pre-workout to be dry scoop. Never mind the fact that every product under the sun can be dry scooped. So it's genius from them. Like, it's the same people that put out like women's only supplements or women's protein powders. It's bullshit. It's marketing. But there are those people that are going to fall for this stupid shit. And so this company puts together a pre-workout. The formula is fairly decent, but here's the issue. They put in a couple of ingredients. They put in 5 grams of betaine, which is way overkill in my opinion. You only need 2.5 grams. They also put in 1.5 grams of taurine. Both of those ingredients work they're osmolytes. So you need a lot of water, and you need to be sufficiently hydrated in order to get the benefits of those things, because it encourages your muscle cells to soak up extra water. You dry scoop the powder. Somebody's going to take a little scoop of it, and they're going to shoot the powder, and they're going to go a little sip like that. They're going to go, ooh, I'm ready to go. I feel this. You're getting zero benefit from those ingredients at that point, because you're not taking in enough water with those ingredients to get the cell volumizing, the cell saturating effects of those ingredients. So it is genius for marketing, because there are going to be some dumb assholes that are going to fall for the marketing of this product. At the same time, I hate this bullshit, because they're trying to say that they put in special enzymes to accelerate digestion and optimize absorption in the mouth for the fastest hitting pre-workout ever. That's complete and utter bullshit. No matter who you are, digestion is automatically going to start in the mouth, both via enzymatic digestion with amylases and all the other kind of enzymes that are in your salivary glands, plus the mechanical digestion of you actually chewing stuff in your mouth. So there's 2 types of digestion going on in your mouth. And it's not going to hit any faster than if you drink a pre-workout that's mixed in water. You scoop a powder, you put it in your mouth, and you drink some water with it. That's no fucking different than mixing it up into a shaker cup and drinking it down. It's the exact same thing. It's not going to hit harder. It's not going to hit better. But the product is going to be ineffective because most people aren't going to drink 16 ounces of water, which is probably what you're going to need at a minimum to get enough benefits for those cell hydrating ingredients like betaine and taurine. So genius marketing on that company, but I fucking hate it. And the formula is just, it's kind of okay. But I hate Bush League bullshit like that.
Yeah, it's, there are 2 types of products. Well, there are 2 main types of products, legit products and gimmick products. And gimmicks are like the quick hits. They try to get your money today and they'll be gone in a year. It's funny you mentioned that because when I was when I first got to Tiger Fitness and we first put out Huge Gainer, there was a guy in the warehouse, a power lifter guy, kind of a blockhead. And we were doing a live video announcing Huge Gainer and a sale. And he took a dry scoop of Huge Gainer to his mouth. And because there was no liquid in there, it soaked everything up. He started choking, and he was completely screwed. He had to get all that out. Like on live camera. The dude's literally choking. Like, well, that didn't go so well.
Yeah, and a lot of these ingredients. Plus, if somebody has an easy gag reflex, they're going to try to dry scoop that, or it's going to get caught in the back of their throat, go up through the nasal passages, and they're going to end up coughing out half the powder. So you're going to waste half the product anyway. Plus, there's 400 milligrams of caffeine in a single serving of this pre-workout. How many people are actually going to take the time to weigh out the proper scoop? All they're going to do is do a heaping scoop. And if most scoop sizes that are in pre-workouts are not accurate. They're usually off by a good 10 to 15%. So you do a heaping scoop of a product that's supposed to be 400 milligrams, you could easily end up ingesting 600 or 700 milligrams when you don't mean to. Right. So there's, is it safe to consume that much? Yeah, from the literature, it's fine, but you're doing some shady shit to people.
Yeah, really silliness, and I forgot that right there. There we go. In, out.
Rant over.
Up. Rant over. Let's go back to the. Let's go back. See what we got. Let's get kicking here. Meg the Strength Guy. I'm in college. Any advice on how to manage money? I'll be able to pursue my lifting goals. That I will be able to pursue my lifting goals. When I read these, I automatically, my brain thinks, nutrition, how to get the most out of your nutrition dollar. But are we talking just general money management? Nutritional, efficiency, when it comes to your dollar? What are your thoughts, Robert? What are we after here?
In college, so when we were in college, Steve, I don't know how they've changed the meal plans or the dining hall situations now, but food really shouldn't be an issue if you're in college, especially if you're a freshman, because most universities, at least when we were there, you forced you to get a meal plan. So you had to do that. So like your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, there's plenty of healthy options, even better food options than, when Steve and I were in college. You should have access to some kind of fitness center or gym so that you won't have to, I don't believe you'll have to spend money on a gym membership because most universities already have a fitness center included that students have access to. Right. Same thing with the food. So from that end, at that point, if you're in college, it's more about managing your bullshit expenses. So not going out to eat, not spending money on just, stupid shit. Stick to the basics. Don't go out and get wasted on the weekends. I mean, you can have a beer here or there, but don't go partying every night of the week. And if you're underage, don't be drinking anyway. Other things to do if you're not on a meal plan, then what you can do is get super cheap, high volume foods, high calorie foods, peanut butter, eggs, the cheap 80-20 or 75-25 ground beef, the chunk light tuna that's in the can, the water pack tuna. You can go with that. Bread, rice, dried beans or canned beans. They're both super cheap. Frozen vegetables, that's great too. Frozen fish, that's incredibly affordable, especially if you go with some kind of white fish like a flounder or a mahi or something. That's pretty cheap over here. You don't have to go for the super expensive cuts of meat. Chicken breasts or chicken thighs, even buy a whole chicken if you have access to a kitchen or if you're, I don't know what your cooking appliance setup is, but you could buy a whole rotisserie chicken for $5 at the store if you don't have access to it. You can store that in your little mini fridge. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff you can do. Just be smart, and maybe you can convince your parents to get one of those club membership things, like a Costco or a Sam's or something, or a BJ's. I think any of those kind of three things. Go in there, load up on a shit ton of dry goods because they have like super bulk things, like a 25-pound bag of rice. Get a rice cooker that's $25 off Amazon. You've got all your carbohydrates set right there for soup for like pennies. You'll be set with that. And
Yeah,
then maybe get a protein powder. Protein powders are pretty cheap these days, even high quality ones. They're routinely buy one get one free or something like that from some of the reputable brands out there.
just don't panic that you don't have complete control over your meal plan. Just eat the proteins first. When I was in college, dip the proteins for each meal. Don't worry if you don't worry about macros and crap like that. I mean, eat what you can. When I was in school, we didn't have meals on the weekends. We just had them during the week. So we had to actually fend for ourselves on the weekends. Ramen noodles is a big hitter. Usually you can stock up on those. One habit I still have to this day when I go into the grocery store is I'll go down the rice aisle or the grain aisle, and I'll go through the meat and I'll look for things that are on sale. You can almost always find something in the chicken family that's cheap AF, and rice is just cheap. Dried beans are a pain in the ass, but once you learn how to cook them, they're cheap.
Yeah, you can get a little Instapot. I mean, like, there's so many things. Like, even if you don't have access to a full kitchen, Instapot, rice cooker, slow cooker, any of those three things, man, you can really make some easy meals doing that, or a toaster oven. You could be set.
I get a big thing of Frank's Red Hot that's like a half gallon, and that's my main seasoning with salt and pepper. And I get a big, huge thing of light soy sauce. Between light soy sauce and salt and pepper, you can make anything taste palatable, really. So even bland ass rice and beans. Rishi. So for some reason, I want to say Rikishi. How would you structure a cutting phase after a long, lean bulk? Being the cycle after the cutting phase. After a long, lean bulk, the first thing you need to do is have some form of a reasonably accurate analysis of body composition. I can look at, if I know your arm size and your leg size, right, and your weight, I can give you a reasonable estimation of lean body mass, plus or minus 3-4 pounds. It's not that complicated once you understand natural bodybuilding potential. So once you understand a reasonable ballpark for your body fat percentage, how much fat you're carrying, then you can establish how much fat you need to lose. Is it 10 pounds, 20 pounds, or 30 pounds? From there, generally you look at about 1.5 pounds a week. I'm not saying that's some magic number, but between losing a pound 1 week and 2 pounds the next week, that's kind of a good average. 1.5 to 1.75 pounds a week. Then you can factor in, if you are consistent, how long that cutting phase will take. From there, it comes to slowly dialing down your calories. Don't get aggressive. Slowly dial them down. Weigh yourself Monday and Friday a couple times a week. See what the scale is doing. If the scale is not moving, make sure your activity is a minimum outside of lifting, an hour a week, hiking, biking, sex Olympics, whatever it is. Just add some extra movement in. If that's not working, hey, man, right, you download all those apps, just do the hookup thing, whatever, burn some calories. I just had to say that because Robert's wincing, but that's where you start, and I hope that helps a little bit. Stein, hello from Norway. How's it going in Norway? All family. Been doing 300 push-ups minimum morning and evening for over a decade. That's pretty impressive. That is the definition of consistency. As of late, experiencing back of my elbows with a triceps tie in, probably right here. What's your remedy? That I'm not a doctor. I just play one on the internet, but I would guess, knowing common injuries, that you have elbow tendonitis. Overuse injuries are a real thing. It's probably time to pull back on the volume a little bit. Number two, I do not know what your lifting regimen is, but there's a good chance if you are lifting as well as in a dedicated manner as you are with your push-ups, that it could be the lifting or all the pulling or gripping on back day that could be contributing to this elbow tendonitis. So if you are, two things I would consider, maybe chilling or cycling or not doing that every day. I don't want to take your joy out of life and steam out of your shorts, but it's probably a good idea not to do 300 push-ups every day, probably cycle that intensity. And I would get some Versa grips for back day. And between those two, it should be a step forward to help. Any additional thoughts, Robert?
Do an assessment of your push-up technique. So you're doing 300 push-ups. Is that 300 push-ups in the morning and then 300 push-ups at night? I mean, first thing Steve said, back off the volume. Doing that many, that's admirable and good that you're sticking to that consistency. But after a while, I mean, it's glorified cardio for your upper body at that point, and endurance training. So look at your technique. Maybe you can slow down. You don't need to bang out 300 push-ups a day unless you really just like doing push-ups for some reason. You're not getting much muscle building benefit at that point with it. You might be increasing some capillaries and helping improve blood flow in that area. But that's you're verging on like almost junk volume territory or something like that. Check your elbow position. Make sure your elbows aren't flaring out. Keep them in tight to the body. Play with your kind of your wrist angles where you're pushing. Are you pitching your torso forward more on it? Are you kind of dipping down to where your shoulders are rolling up like that when you're doing your push-ups? Ingrain some of your technique and maybe slow down. If you're doing a lot of bouncing and stuff, that's going to put a lot of stress on the joints, ligaments, connective tissue, and all of that stuff. So slow down your technique, dial back the volume, and do some maybe some other, like you can get what am I talking about? Like elbow sleeves if some of the heavy lifting's bothering you too. What kind of is troubling with me, it says tried YT therapy. Is that YouTube therapy? I really hope you're not trying to get like physical therapy advice from YouTube. That's what I'm not sure what YT therapy is. And maybe I'm saying something stupid, but I mean that's the only thing that jumps to my mind because I know a lot of physical therapists and put things up there for doing that. But maybe get a foam roller, break up some like the connective tissue and scar tissue that could have developed over there from years and years and years of beating the shit out of your joints. So that's all I've got to say on the issue.
I would hate. There's so many things out there as far as therapy videos on YouTube. Like if you want to do an exercise for hip mobility or this or that or prehab or rehab or whatever you're doing, there's literally, I would hate to see somebody try to weed through that because there's literally just an endless sea of ideas and exercises, and my brain can't even begin to process that. It's probably a good idea to see somebody locally, a sports doctor, somebody that really knows their stuff, that you can trust, and that has put in some miles themselves. Stein, workout's done for the week. Now it's 2 days of rest and hiking with the dog. Enjoy. The weather's perfect here. We have a 3-hour run tomorrow, so I hope the weather continues to cooperate. Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Thanks, Pork Meat. I started my first cut after 3-ish years of lifting. My first sets are fine, but I struggle to keep up the following sets. Would it make sense to drop sets during the cut? The first thing you want to look at is how you're training above 82.5%. If so, you probably want to drop that because we really don't want to train. 85% is kind of like the line, but when you're losing weight, you're going to lose a little bit of strength. So to be safe, probably don't train above 82.5%. You also could look at like meal timing. You might be bonking because of your meal timing. You might need to make some adjustments or move some things around a little bit. So you eat maybe something 2 hours before, maybe 300 to 400 calories with complex carbs, and maybe even some simple carbs right before your workout. If that doesn't work, you could back off a set of assistance work. You're more in maintenance mode. You're not cutting to be a bodybuilder. You're not cutting down to, 7.2% body fat. So you're not really at a huge threat of losing muscle. Even if you would lose a little bit of muscle, it's going to come back when muscle memory is a real thing. It's going to come back. So, there's no harm if you're just getting kicked in the old cojones to drop a set or two. Any thoughts, Robert?
Yeah, I guess we would kind of need to see his total volume. Like, how much is he doing? Is it more of a powerlifting program he's doing? Is it more of a hypertrophy base? Is it kind of a hybrid power building thing? How aggressive has he made his calorie cut? And then is part of it, psychosomatic, or is some of the thing like, in the back of your mind, I've cut my calories. So are you kind of telling yourself, oh, well, I've cut my calories today. I'm feeling weak. And I mean, I've seen this before with other people that I've worked with, and they've said, you put them on a diet, and they're like 3 days into a diet, they just say, man, I'm just so weak. I don't have the stamina. I'm thinking, you've got ample energy storage on your body to carry you through this workout. So I'm not saying you're doing that, Pork Meat, but that's just some things I've encountered in the past, that people kind of psych themselves out and tell themselves they're weaker than they really are when there's no real reason for that. How is your sleep as well? But most things, if it is a fairly aggressive cut, that makes sense that you would be feeling a little bit weak. And some lifts are going to be more impacted, like the bench in particular is going to be more affected by things like frequency and food volume, or total calorie intake, than some other lifts, at least in my experience. And I think Steve's mentioned that a time or two before. Like, you've noticed that when you're eating really well, your bench goes up more, and then when you cut calories, that seems to be one of the lifts that takes a hit more than others. Outside of that, yeah, it just, do you need to drop a set? I'd need to see the entire program, how much volume you're doing.
Robert brings up an important point, and whenever I make a statement regarding this stuff, I want to understand that I don't know what Pork Meat is doing specifically, so it's not applicable necessarily to him. But I do know there's two types of people. Like me, if I'm in a slight deficit, I can continue to do what I'm doing. I don't notice anything. I really don't notice any energy difference. And then there are some people, you ever see like the kid in the middle of Walmart that flops on the floor and is flailing his arms, and like one of those giant things outside of a car dealership. Some people, like, they drop calories and all of a sudden, they're doing this super tantrum, arms flailing. I can't go on. Woe is me. And I'm not saying it's real or not real, but I do find interesting that you can, and I'd actually like to see how many people are in each pool, do a study once, but some people just don't react well to cutting calories. And I don't know if it's psychological, or part physiological or what, but at some point it probably is beneficial to drink a bucket of Suck It Up. That's, you're cutting calories. It's probably not a good idea to cut movement, because then all that does is lower your energy expenditure for the day, albeit a little bit. But at the end of the day, cutting a set of pec deck or seated calf raises, that's not going to make or break much of anything. It's not going to drain you, nor does it burn that many calories. So generally, the rule is drink a bucket of Suck It Up. What's going on in Austria? Hope things are well in Austria. My dog is snoring like a champ already. Scotty Mac, nice to see you guys again. Hopefully no self-righteous dairy dodgers today. What do we got here? Dungeons and Dumbbells. Gyms in Montreal. I wish they were open in around Hamilton and Toronto, because that's where a lot of my client base is. So I'm happy for you guys, but I got a couple Canadian clients. I'm so sick of it. My UK clients, so sick of it. It's just endless. And in the UK, I believe this week they're going to fine people $5,000 for leaving the country if they find out they left the country. So y'all need a revolution over there. That's all I can say. I thought we were bad. Harut, yep. So happy about Montreal's gyms opening up. They've been closed 9 months out of the last 12. Open things up, for the love of God. What do we got here? Rob, do you see a problem with swimming 30 minutes 4 times a week? No, I don't see any problem at all. I get this question a lot. Number one, do what you love. In the long run, lifting is about consistency and progressive overload and hard work over time. And if you do that, the body's going to take you where you need to go. So you're looking at 2 hours of swimming a week. That's not insane. The only thing I would suggest is, if you're just doing it for leisure, stick with what you're doing. If you're doing it to perform better in swimming, you might want to study like 80-20, some of the 80-20 tactics to improve speed, because that's a lot of intensity just it's probably good for calorie burn. If you're doing it for calorie burn, go after it. If you're doing it for speed, you might have your protocol, like things like speed ups and stuff like that. But there's not going to be any issue. Just your body will adjust. Just make sure your calorie intake is good. Monitor your weight on the scale, and you should be good to go. Any thoughts, Robert?
Let me unmute myself. There we go. No, to minimize the interference effect, try to keep the sessions maybe 4 to 6 hours apart at all, or if you're going to stack them back to back, do your weight training first. But what's your main goal? Is it to get better at swimming, or is it to build muscle, gain strength, and that thing? So slot your workouts based on priority. But with that, as long as you're modulating the volume and you're not doing like 30 sets per workout every single day, and you're doing that twice a week, to where you're just running yourself into the ground with too much volume and junk volume in your training sessions, there's no issue with that whatsoever.
And Robert mentions the interference effect, and it's good to understand because we tend to view everything when it comes to lifting as either an on or off switch. If I add too much, like there's a tipping point and gains go away. That's not the way it works. Interference might slow things down 10%, but over the course of 3, 4, 5 years, it's good to remember that things even out. So, never compromise doing what you love. Never. If you work hard, everything will even out in the end. Jeff, follow up. I've been lifting for 7 years and I'm 49. Not sure if we missed a question, Jeff. If you had something to tag on to that, but I appreciate you tuning in. And if we did miss anything else, toss it on up. Graybeard, Robert, I know you're not a huge proponent of superfoods or greens, and we need to put a caveat on there. Robert has nothing against greens as far as veggies or fruits, but have you any thoughts on healthy living drink greens from Kylia Health? If you struggle, well, look, Graybeard, first, if you struggle to get enough veggies, I will challenge you that you probably like onions, red pepper, green pepper, grapes, strawberry. There's something out there that you like, right? Because sometimes in this community, it's like eat your veggies, and they're like, okay, I'm going to put a hunk of broccoli on the side of my plate or cauliflower on the side of my plate, and there's a whole world of veggies out there. So, just talk, Robert. So, sorry to derail you. Any thoughts on healthy living drink greens from Kylia Health?
Yeah, I just pulled it up. Here's some of the marketing jargon that they do. It says every scoop is loaded with 40.
Robert,
say it again.
Want to share that with us?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. Share screen. Boop. Boop.
Boop.
Chrome has lost permission to capture your screen. Follow these steps.
What is it called? I'll figure it out. You go right ahead, Robert. I'll find it.
Feeding the cells nutrient-dense, God-given phytonutrients. Establishing a healthy pH balance. Bullshit. Regulating your blood sugar. Bullshit. Ooh. Providing mega energy, not stimulating your adrenal system. Bullshit. Increasing your mental focus. Bullshit. Improving digestive system. Supercharging your immune system. Bullshit. Cleansing the blood and internal organs. Bullshit. Cleansing and rebuilding your colon. Bullshit. Providing a daily dose of perfect nutrition so you can enjoy the not so perfect food. No. The total living daily greens is the best tasting, life sustaining superfood. Can be yours for less than a cup of designer coffee per day.
$99 though. Oh my.
This sack of shit is $99. There is a 15-gram blend of alfalfa juice powder, spirulina juice, fenugreek, barley juice, broccoli juice, lecithin, chlorella, brown rice bran, wheat juice powder, apple juice powder, bitter melon, pineapple. No, this does not replace your fruits and veggies. It says it's the nutritional equivalent of 7 to 10 of raw fruits and vegetables. Nope.
No.
That is unverified. There are no studies, next to no studies on green drinks and providing any kind of nutritive benefit to the body. Yeah, it's got some antioxidants in here. They're underdosed. Digestive enzymes may be utilized by the body, maybe not. They could be just broken down by your stomach acid and cleaved and hydrolyzed into other aminos. No, this is way overpriced. Don't buy this bullshit.
This is the funniest thing I've seen in a long time. One of their selling points, now in a convenient Ziploc bag for easy storage. For $99, you need some kind of a storage delivery system that's a little bit more snazzy and than the Ziploc bag. That's where I keep my cocaine, right? So in my steroids. So I've never seen that before in a so Robert, for somebody that doesn't like veggies, and I understand a lot of people don't like certain veggies, but veggies are like brushing your teeth. If you tell me you don't like brushing your teeth, I'm going to tell you you need to brush your teeth. If you tell me you don't like to do cardio, people tell me like to do cardio, I say, look, I don't care. You have to do it for health. You have to move. If you don't like brushing your teeth, you have to brush your teeth. If you don't like veggies, you gotta find some veggies you can eat, fruit or veggies.
Yep.
I guarantee everybody can find 10 fruits or veggies that they like.
Yeah, this is I hate greens, and it's bullshit marketing jargon like that for why I hate green. That's one of the reasons I hate greens, but because they're also completely unsubstantiated. You have no idea how these things are processed. Are they providing anything, or are you just eating up like a bunch of like green dirt?
So I'm not trying to be hard on you, Graybeard. I'm just giving you a little bit of tough love. You got to think of the rainbow, the color rainbow, and try to find a few from some of the different colors that you like. Since when I nearly died at age 46 from being a fat ass and eating processed foods mainly, I dove into the world of cooking, and I found all kinds of fruits and vegetables that I hadn't been eating that I really, really enjoy. And one of the biggest traps that I see in my client base is when we talk about veggies, it's like a veggie to them is broccoli or cauliflower or carrots, which, to be honest, can be cooked but those are three of the most bland things if you just add salt to them. They're just kind of boring. Man, you can do things. Stuffed green peppers with cauliflower rice instead of rice. You can dice in spinach into just about any dish. Things like baby bok choy, man, that's become one of my favorites. Mushrooms, even though not a veggie, I would call it a functional plant-based food. That provides value like that as well. So, all right. Scotty Mack, should men be prescribed tests as they get older? I'm sure Sandy made a case for this before. Should men be well, this is a very complex subject when it comes to hormone replacement, but I would say let me start this discussion, Robert, with human growth hormone. I believe I commissioned you to write the article on somatopause.
Probably so, yeah. I mean, that's like 3 or 4 years ago now.
Or I wrote the article on somatopause. I don't recall. But somatopause basically is it's never talked about. I think Robert and I are the only people in the universe that knows what it means other than the person that coined the phrase. As a culture, we should know a lot more about it. Somatopause is basically dumbed down. Once you hit the age of 35, there's a rate of decay, generally how much human growth hormone the body is producing. So the half-life is basically about 10 years, I believe, give or take. So if your human growth hormone is 100% at age 45, and this is a dumbed down simplification, at 45 it'll be like 50%, at 55 it'll be like 25%, at 65 it'll be like 12.5%, whatever it happens to be. It's kind of that rate of decay. So when you see an old person just sitting on their chair at age 75 unable to recover, usually there's some human growth hormone issues at play there. Is that fair, Robert?
Agreed.
So human growth hormone is really something that we should be worried about. It's a culture if we're really worried about aging and health. But it's just because number one, it's super pricey, which probably could be fixed if we wanted to as a society. But number two, when someone does human growth hormone therapy, it has the potential to expedite, as far as I understand it, growth of things like cancer cells. So it's very complex. And we tend to start with testosterone, Robert, but I tend to start with human growth hormone because as far as longevity and quality of life, I would argue that human growth hormone is the main thing we should be focusing on. Is that, would you?
Well, yeah, it helps considerably with recovery. I mean, why do you think you're seeing NFL quarterbacks playing their best ever at the age of 40 plus? Are they supplementing with some other stuff on the sides? Probably.
Well, you notice the injury recovery rate has, if you study these sorts of things, has improved dramatically the last 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, some of the surgeries are having a benefit from that, but what other things are they supplementing with on the side to accelerate their injury recovery rates?
So as far as the average man, testosterone can definitely make you feel like low testosterone, like a zombie. You can lose that old morning wood ski. I mean, that's probably a good sign,
Though there's that. There's also decreasing cognitive function, poor mood, increased rates of cardiovascular events, so heart attack, stroke, all of those things with declining testosterone levels as you get older too.
Against it at all. But quite honestly, it's like lap band surgery. Like, are you taking care of yourself or are you looking for a shortcut? If you just want to sit around and pizza and wings and drink beer and have a testosterone shot, you really don't earn it. I mean, you really got to take care of yourself or it's not. So I don't know.
That sounds like a pretty good life, though. Pizza, wings, and beer. That's a pretty good life.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it really, really does.
Maybe a long one, but it sounds like a pretty good short life.
So, Robert, I'm gonna mention, since we're talking about that, I'm gonna see what your thoughts, and I want to see what everybody else is thinking. So, there are some people that quite a lot of people, I would argue, that spend a huge portion of their adult life trapped in this hamster wheel of hell where I got to lose weight, 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 I got to lose weight. And they never go over to the lifestyle change.
Mm-hmm.
And like me and Fiona were talking about this, why not just stop with the stress and just stick with the lot? Like, you're 57 years old and you're like, I got to lose weight, I got to look like a supermodel, I got to lose weight, I got to look like a supermodel. Like, why don't you just be?
That's the city of New Orleans in a nutshell. I mean, they make some of the most delicious food, have some of the best cocktail bars and everything. And that's why the city is just, fat, sick, and unhealthy. It's just because there's really good food that people don't give a shit, and they're going to live their life as they want to. They're going to eat crawfish étouffée, shrimp étouffée, crawfish boils. They're going to do black and red fish dumped in a bunch of butter, a bunch of clarified butter. It's the culture of the thing, and that's just shit. There's nothing wrong with living the life you want to if you enjoy it that way. That's fine. Where I have an issue is when you start, jacking up everybody else's healthcare rates and trying to put the blame on everybody else or things like that. Take the onus on yourself for your own personal choices. Don't shove it off on everybody else or try to make somebody wear a mask because you're obese and you think you're at a higher risk for a disease.
Yeah. So it's a complicated topic. And I'm certainly not encouraging obesity or gluttony, but thing we need to look at is like the mental stress and anxiety and depression that comes from this endless hamster wheel.
Yep.
You know, it's you. I have a couple on it that have been with me over 2 years, and they just can't make the lifestyle change. So every day they wake up, I got to lose weight, I got to lose weight, I got to lose weight, I got to lose weight. What do you do this weekend? Pizza and beer, pizza and beer, pizza and beer, pizza and beer. I got to lose weight. It just never ends. And like, part of me just wants to say to them, like, you might as well just do the pizza and beer thing, because the stress and anxiety and depression you're placing on yourself. Why are people okay, Robert, with living with anxiety and depression and stress instead of making a lifestyle change? There's a good topic.
I don't know. I mean, the same thing can apply to their job too. I mean, I was very unhappy in engineering for 8 years, but I mean, it was a nice paycheck, and just now my thing when people say, "Well, hey, how did you get into doing what you do?" I said, follow your passion. If you are really good and dedicated at what you do, you will find a way to make money doing it. Now more than ever, it is easier to find a way to make money doing something completely random that people 20 years ago didn't have the ability, or even 40 years ago had the access to do. I think there needs to be a higher premium, especially just starting from an early age. We need to teach good work ethics, teach how to succeed in school and those kind of things. But at the same time, don't, like, Sandy's a teacher at a high school, and so many of her kids come up and just say, what's the best paying job? I got to get into the best school so I can get a high paying job so I can make lots of money. I'm thinking they're going to end up miserable and quitting their careers within 5 to 10 years of entering that field, just because they're chasing it purely for the cash grab. There's a shit ton of ways. There's almost an infinite number of ways to make money these days doing things. Find something you're passionate about and just chase it.
People come to me, when they find out what I do for a living, that it's all started with YouTube. Robert and I both, are self-supportive. So is Alan Roberts and a lot of people we know. And I've said this 100 times before on this channel, probably. Whatever you're passionate about, you can make money off on the internet, and probably more money than you're making right now. If you do not believe me, all you need to do is find something you love to do and be consistent at it. There is a guy on YouTube that goes and camps in random places, in cemeteries, in parking lots. And I think some of his videos have 3.4 million views. He makes like $30,000 to $40,000 a video off YouTube for fucking camping in a cemetery. Is camp overnight in a cemetery one weekend a month, and he made like $30,000.
Yeah.
And if, like, the first time I made a cigar video, I had a million views on it. I think I've made $10,000 off that video.
Wow.
It doesn't always work like that, right? On this channel, I rarely ever get over 10,000 views, but I've established a career, which I love.
Yeah. I think something else we need to point out is that if you're chasing your passion, you're not going to be doing it for money. And at the same time, you probably won't be making a lot of money in the beginning. It will take you some time. It's a slow burn process. There's those rare cases where you switch to something, it catches like wildfire, and you're probably making as much money as you were in your previous career. But if you're truly passionate about this, you're not going to mind taking the pay cut. When I was at engineering, I was making $80,000 a year. I quit that to go making $1,200 a month. So $24,000 a year writing for a bunch of different supplement sites. I didn't give a shit. It was just me and Sandy. We were living in a little 2-bedroom apartment in Michigan while she was working at the University of Michigan in their athletic department. I didn't give a shit. I was happier than ever. I got to work from home. I woke up, set my t-shirt and my shorts like I am now, drinking coffee and writing about different supplements and ingredients and stuff. Like, I didn't give a shit that I wasn't making, basically I was making a fourth of what I was making beforehand. You don't care about that. And then eventually, you grow in success as long as you keep your nose to the ground, bust your balls, make sure you are the best in your field at what you can do. And it's going to come pay back, and you're going to be making more than you were in your previous career anyway, because you actually love what you're doing, and you're going to apply yourself infinitely more to that craft than you were at that shitty job that was supposedly a high-paying, stable job that you really didn't care about.
Really, it comes down to What do you spend your time doing for fun? And if you can find, like, when I lost my job in 2006, 2007, I just started writing about the stuff I enjoyed lifting. Here's the workout I like. I created a forum. I created a website. I didn't need to know things. I just followed what I liked, and I created people that joined me, like-minded people.
Yeah.
And like, you don't need to be polished. I do professional YouTube videos. I don't edit. It takes me 5 minutes a day. You know, the smaller your niche is, the bigger the market is, because there's not a lot of people doing it. There's 7 billion people in fitness, but if you like model trains, for the love of God, you could have the biggest model train business in the world, and if you just share your passion with people. So anyway, enough of that. Chris Galore, boom. What's up, Mr. Brain and Mr. Braun? Sometimes I don't know who's who. We're kind of transitioning over. You know what I mean? It's 2021. We're transitioning, Robert.
2 peas in a pod.
2 pods and a pea. All right, what do we got here? Josh Bew, upper, lower, or push pull legs modified? It's a non-question. You know, I made a video, and I encourage you guys to check it out. Fuck your workout. You know, it's a non-question. There's the best workout is the one that your consistency and progressive overload and hard work are the magic, and consistent diet. Everything else is bullshit. There's your master's degree in lifting.
Organic apples or genetically modified oranges.
So, and I'm not being dismissive, Josh. I'm just trying to educate you. Doesn't fucking matter. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because if you look at the 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 lifters that have been successful, they all train a little bit differently. And all the experts will agree. Dr. Mike, you know, whoever you talk to, over time, if you're consistent and work hard and have a consistent diet, you're going to get to the same destination as everybody else. Stein M, after squat and RDL, I get pump in my upper back. Oh, upper back pumps are pretty rare. Am I keeping it too tight? I'd like to know if it's a pump or if it's some kind of a cramp, because I tend to lean towards a cramp, but pump is pretty rare for upper back. I've never heard of that before. There are some in the steroid world. When they take oral steroids, they get a lot of lower back pumps, but I've never heard of an upper back pump. Any thoughts on that, Robert?
No, I mean, it makes sense for like an RDL. If you're locking everything down and keeping it tight when you're going down with the bar, that could easily. I mean, you'll get a little bit of a pump, but I mean, it's not going to be the same kind of pump if you're doing, you know, pull-ups, rows, or lat pull-downs or something like that. As long as it's not inhibiting your progress with other things, I wouldn't worry about it. It's not something worth stressing over.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, when I coach people on squats, you don't have to pull the bar down, try to rip it through your spine. You just have to have a reasonable degree of tightness.
If you're to the point where you're squeezing so hard, like that is becoming the limiting factor instead of your quads, glutes, hamstrings, then you're squeezing too tight right there or something, like, or if you're starting to feel like pain or like a burning in your lats or something, that might be you're locking it down too much. But I wouldn't worry about it.
So, Robert, off topic, we're going to jump into movies real quick, and I want everybody to chime in. I had a client by the name of Bree who educated me on Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of it. You know, here I am, somebody that loves movies and searches through movies and Netflix and all that, trying to find a movie I missed. Just somewhere, show me a movie I missed.
Yeah.
And somehow I missed this. But have you seen it yet?
It's on HBO Max. We do not have that streaming service. We have Amazon Prime and what's the other one? Netflix. So no, I don't. But I haven't followed the DC universe movies. I've seen a couple of them. Like I saw the original Superman movie with Henry Cavill. I didn't see Justice League. Like I didn't see the original Justice League that Joss Whedon did. I didn't see the Snyder cut. I didn't see Aquaman. I saw the original Wonder Woman on a plane, but then I heard like the 1984 Wonder Woman was this
Horrible.
garbage movie because it was either too convoluted or they were trying to make like it was so blatant the political and social stances they were making in it that it lost any quality or substance that it actually had to it. So no, I haven't really. I mean, and DC keeps changing stuff so often between who's playing Batman, who's playing Superman. Like there's so many permutations and then of this shit that DC has always botched things compared to Marvel. And I've never really been. I didn't like the DC characters with the exception of Batman movies, like the old Michael Keaton ones or the Christian Bale ones.
Well, I will say, I don't follow it either. I haven't seen Aquaman. I some of DC's characters to me, I almost feel like, almost like cheesy. Like here's a robot guy, and it's like,
Yep.
here's Mouse Man or whatever. It's always DC's always like really kind of here's a guy as a bat, But then you have Spider-Man, so I get it, but. We started watching Justice League last night, and we were a little bit Zack Snyder's, and we were a bit hesitant because we watched Wonder Woman 1984, and it sucked gorilla balls. I mean, to the last drop of gorilla ball sweat. It was awful, and we actually liked it a lot so far. It's a 4-hour and 2-minute movie.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, the Snyder Cut is very, very lengthy.
But I will say. I am becoming a big fan of HBO Plus because what we do is we'll get the free subscription to watch the movie, and then we'll cancel, and then another one will come up, and then we'll get the subscription again. This is like the 4th time we've resubbed in the last 4 months just to watch movies on it.
Cool.
So it's worth checking out if you're a movie person because I think it's cheaper for the monthly subscription than it is to actually pay to rent these movies. So King Kong and Godzilla's coming out too. So
there's some errors with that because if you go back to like the old like 1950s movies of that, and you adjust like the scale of the monsters, Godzilla is so much bigger than King Kong. This is not even funny.
King Kong's growing.
Yeah, he's on that. He's got a good cycle that we got to figure out what he's on.
It's funny. The one thing about the Justice League movie I didn't like in the first hour was they almost make fun of themselves as like of superheroes. Like you're a guy that dresses up like a bat for 20 years and walks around the city. He's like, yeah, I dress up like a bat. It's almost like they're making fun of themselves. It's but not in kind of an awkward way. Like. Somebody admitting some kind of sexual deviancy. Yeah, I do that. So anyway, how do you track your progress if you're using a pre-workout only on some days? Because you might get no offense, Cap, but a pre-workout isn't going to turbocharge you. Progress is progress, and if you find you're getting more reps out of a pre-workout, you probably need to keep using that pre-workout because that'll end really quickly. It's not going to, once you get your bench up to like a certain level, you ain't going to be adding 2 reps every workout. You'll be lucky to add 2 reps a month. So any thoughts, Robert?
I mean, it's pretty simple. You in your logbook say, I used XYZ pre-workout today, and then next week you do that, and you write down whether you used a pre-workout or not. I mean, there's not really any magic to it. You just keep detailed notes in your logbook of what you're using, how the bar was moving, how you felt, what reps you got, what weights you got. Make your logbook as detailed as possible so you can account for all variables in the equation.
Expedited progress or quick progress is less for a very short window, and it's like you have a limited amount of grass to mow. You have a limited amount of steps like that to take +1s before you run out of territory. So if you find something that is expediting progress, you probably need to stick with it and make sure your nutrition is nailed to maximize it. That's all I'll say. So Frank Fitness, what's going on? Frank Fitness from the UK, where they might actually open gyms soon. Might. Is it okay to use 0.7 liters of water instead of 0.3 liters of water to mix pre-workout?
Yes. So 700 milliliters, that's what 500 milliliters is 16 ounces. So what we're looking at 24 ounces of water compared to 8 ounces of water. Yes. I would say, especially if you've got hygroscopic ingredients in there, like betaine, taurine, glycerol, creatine, those kind of things, they thrive on you consuming enough water. So yes, absolutely, no issues with using. I mean, I take a shaker bottle. I never use 8 ounces to mix up my pre-workout. It's always a full damn shaker bottle of water, and then I sip it for like 30 minutes, and then go to town.
So for those of you keeping score at home, 16 ounces is 473 milliliters, or about zero point 0.5 liters. 16 ounces is close to 0.5 liters.
Yeah,
Just like you're trying to
I think
reference.
it's 16.9 ounces is what 500 milliliters is,
Sounds
something
right.
like that.
That's why a lot of your cans of 16.9. I don't know.
Yeah.
What's going on, Neo? Neo's a client of mine. Good to see you, Neo, up in Minnesota. TJ, thank you for that donation. We appreciate it. That'll buy Robert's whiskey this weekend. Why did you both get into lifting initially? Be honest if the answer is to get girls. For me, the honest answer is when I was growing up, it was comic books and it was WWE. It was larger than life guys, right? It was Arnold and Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Superfly Snuka. I didn't have a dad in the house. I didn't really have a father figure, and I just liked activity, so I just started lifting. I had a concrete weight set. It only went up to like 95 pounds. So I'd be doing like 10 by 10s and lots of push-ups. I was always doing everything. Jumping rope. Back then we had Richard Simmons and the aerobics albums. I was doing that stuff. I do everything. I just loved activity. So it was kind of in my blood. And when I went to college, I went to the New Mexico Institute of Mining and Technology. The specialty on campus was astrophysics and petroleum engineering. It was a very specialized school. They had other things, obviously, math and computer programming and everything, but it was a real math science school. And there was 10% of the student body was female, literally. And because of petroleum engineering, 75% of the female students were from the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, etc. And they tended to not mingle with us at all. This was 1986, 1987. Not talk to us at all. So basically, we had 7 girls on campus that would talk to us with about 1,000 guys. Figure out those. So I wasn't trying to win over girls. I'll tell you that much. There wasn't any girls to win over. So Robert, did you start lifting before you won over a girl or after you won over a girl?
After. So I didn't start really getting into actual resistance training till after I got married. I started Taekwondo at the age of 9, and that was because I liked things growing up like Ninja Turtles, Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme, Jackie Chan movies, all of those kind of things. So it was never when me getting into fitness, and obviously the Rocky movies. I love the Rocky movies. I love the Schwarzenegger movies, but I was always drawn more towards the martial arts. And if you know, like most of the martial arts back in like the 80s and 90s, it was the Karate Kid. It was Chuck Norris. It wasn't the weightlifting aspect of it wasn't glorified. We did calisthenics before, and we do jumping jacks, jumping jacks, or elevated jumping jacks, whatever we call them, push-ups, leg raises, crunches, things like that. So I didn't actually get into legitimate resistance training, where you're doing like sets and reps and stuff, till after my grandfather passed away in 2010, January of 2010. Actually passed away a couple of days after his birthday. He was born on New Year's Eve. So we were there. We spent New Year's Eve of 2009 with him because he was kind of on his last leg then, which entirely avoidable. He could still be living to this day, most likely, because he just chose poor health decisions. He could have kept going if he had made some other decisions along the line, and that's neither here nor there. My dad's been a type 2 diabetic since sometime in the mid to late 90s. I don't know exactly when. So when my grandpa died in January of 2010, Sandy and I had gotten married in July of 2009, and our 1-year anniversary was coming up, and we were going to an all-inclusive in Mexico. So I didn't want to look like a slob. Like, I mean, I was never super overweight or anything like that. I was always just kind of, skinny, fat, soft kind of thing. And if we were going to be at an all-inclusive resort, I wanted to look decent, but at the same time, I had history of multiple type 2 diabetics on my side. My grandpa had just died. So that was really the onus for me. So I was still doing taekwondo during all this time anyway, but I also came to the realization, like, look, I need to actually start getting into resistance training a little bit more focused. And so that was the major impetus for me jumping into that. It's never been about girls. I didn't join taekwondo to get girls. I've never really done anything. And this is going to sound weird. I'm trying to think of anything I've done to get girls. Because, I mean, Sandy and I started dating in 2002, or at the end of our junior year of high school. We broke up here and there, while we were in college and stuff. But, I mean, most of my decisions in life, it wasn't based on I'm going to go get this girl, because I don't know if I'm not wired like that, or, what, I'm weird. I don't know. But no, getting into taekwondo or lifting weights was never about getting girls. Taekwondo, I was 9 years old. I had no idea what the hell a girl was. I mean, I knew what a girl was. I just had no aspirations for being with a girl at that point. And then, when I started resistance training in 2010, I was married, and I had no, I have eyes for only one woman in this world, and she is amazing. So,
thank you, Robert. Hey, that made me think of a question.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we both cut our teeth, on some of the classic martial arts movies, but I've been out of that world forever. Are there good martial floating around these days, or has the UFC kind of killed that old school karate kung fu vibe?
To a certain degree, yes. What I liked about the old school, like the Chuck Norris movies, the Jean-Claude Van Damme stuff, it was all real fighting. When I say real fighting, there wasn't a bunch of wire work like you see in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and a lot of the other Chinese martial arts movies. So there's some really great ones coming out, like all four of the Ip Man movies, which is one of the teachers was Bruce Lee's teacher. That had ways in Wing Chun and Kung Fu. It's like the really close style of Kung Fu fighting. Donnie Yen is making some great movies with that. Scott Adkins is a British actor that makes a ton of great movies. If you see any of his what's the name of his movies? The Debt Collector 1 and 2, which are on Netflix, are really good. Scott Adkins was also in The Expendables 2 and a bunch of other movies. Tony Jaa is a phenomenal martial artist. He's great. Iko Uwais, I don't know how to. He's Indonesian. Ikouwais. He gained popularity in the Raid and the Raid 2. Phenomenal martial artist. All of his stuff, man. He's a fucking beast. So Tony Jaa, Iko Uwais, Scott Adkins. Those are kind of three of my favorite guys that are putting out martial arts movies right now. But I always have a soft spot for the 80s martial arts movies with Jean-Claude Van Damme, Kickboxer, Bloodsport. Those are phenomenal movies. And of course, Chuck Norris movies are always awesome.
I don't have a lot of regrets in life, but I regret not being able to get into some martial art just for movement. I mean, we talk a lot about yoga. I want to share something that might seem a little bit weird. Some people might never have heard of it, but back in 1995, 96, I lived in the upper panhandle of Idaho. And that's when the UFC, you could go to the video store and some of the original UFCs were coming out, Royce Gracie versus a sumo wrestler and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I started to explore, we didn't have the internet. I started to explore different forms of martial arts. And this book by Lang Shu Yu, you have Tai Chi, right? But Tai Chi has brother or sister styles like Bagwazong, or however you want to pronounce it. And I believe it's HSING, Sing I, or whatever it is. Have you ever heard of those, Robert?
Yeah, Xingyi and Pagua.
Xingyi and Pagua. Yeah, you say it better than me. Well,
we had a kung fu, so the taekwondo school I went to, it was called the Academy of Martial Arts, and so half of our school was taekwondo. The other half was Northern Shaolin, Praying Mantis Kung Fu. I did both styles, although I preferred. I started earlier in taekwondo, but I also did that. And so the headmaster of the kung fu side of the school brought in some lessons and elements of that, as well as Tai Chi. So that's the reason I'm familiar with it.
This book right here, I bought this book back in the day. I don't know how I found it, right? I think I ordered it in the back of a kung fu magazine.
Hmm.
But this book is like it's like a level course. The information in this book is phenomenal, and you probably need to learn a little bit of Chinese. But uh, at the time, I lived in the middle of fuck sticks nowhere in Idaho. I'm like, man, I just want to get out and practice this, just as a form of fluid movement. You know, we have Tai Chi, we have yoga, but things like this always intrigue me because it's something you could sustain and do as you get older, and it's not ground and pound, and it's not Krav Maga or that sort of thing. So, all righty, enough babbling. Neo, I think 98% of everything I do in life is so I can get. Nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
How can I find out my muscles are more fast twitch or slow twitch? And should I base my hypertrophy training around it? Kat, I think we've interacted with you many times on this channel, and I'm an old man, so I apologize, but Kat could be a man, or it could be Katrina, or it could just be an internet moniker. So I do not know, but if you are a woman, women can generally handle volume a little bit more than men. Like, I do not want to see a woman on a 5x5. I'd rather see him on a 5x8 or a little bit higher rep scheme. When I was training my daughters, they might fail at a 60-pound bench press, but you could drop them down to 50 and they could do like 27 reps. There's this weird tipping point for women where if they can do it, they can do 7,000 reps. So I think in general, because women don't have that as great of a progression window, it's easier to progress in lower reps. I think in general they have a different makeup in some of their muscle fibers. Robert, do you know if that's I know that's reasonably accurate, but I don't know the ins and outs of it because honestly, training women, I have a lot to learn. So
Yeah, I know Menno Henselmans has written an article on like the female muscle growth potential, and he found like the amount that you can gain is comparable. Like where you're starting is similar to that of men. Like you're not going to grow up to be the same size as a guy, but like the guy starting amount of muscle mass and the percentage like he can make is going to be comparable to what a woman can do if she's actually pushing herself to her full genetic potential. It's just that most women aren't super crazy to get after the weights like guys are. Just on, we're talking like in broad strokes here. So you can definitely put on to this. Do I think you need to worry about training fast twitch versus slow twitch? No. You're getting mired down in the minutia and starting to do focus and stress on things you don't need to worry about. Go back to the stupid simple basics that Steve and I harp on each week on these lives is quality exercise selection, push each set for as many quality reps as possible, and then use a variety of rep ranges. That way you're stimulating the fast twitch fibers and you're getting the benefits of the slow twitch fiber too. So the fast twitch fibers have the greatest capacity for growth, but they also exhaust the quickest. Slow twitch fibers can still grow, but you're going to have to attack them with the higher end of the rep range. So to ensure that you're getting a good mixture of growth across them, do that, because short of the only way for you to find out 100% how your fast twitch and slow twitch fibers are is to get a muscle biopsy. And that's also going to change based on which muscle you're talking about. So your pecs and each muscle group has its own unique mixture of fast twitch and slow twitch fiber. So, your vastus lateralis or one of your quadriceps could have a higher proportion of slow twitch versus fast twitch, where your pecs are going to be completely opposite. They're going to be more fast twitch and less slow twitch. So, and plus there's also muscle fibers are plastic in that based on how your training is, there are certain fibers that can kind of gravitate towards one more end of the spectrum than the other. So they might shift, if you end up doing a lot of high rep training with low rest periods, they're going to transition more to a slow twitch phase. Whereas if you're somebody that comes from like a powerlifting background or a lot of Olympic lifting, they're going to be more fast twitch. And this can evolve and change over the time as the more you get ingrained into your training program. But don't worry about any of that. Don't go and pay to get muscle biopsies because that's going to suck having a chunk of your flesh ripped out of you. Just do a consistent training program, good quality exercise selection, push each set for as many quality reps as possible, use a variety of rep ranges, do some work in the 6 to 8 rep range, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, 12 to 15, 15 to 25, use a mix, and it doesn't have to all be in one workout. It can, but just during the week or every other week, work in a variety of rep ranges. So that way you're hitting everything as well as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's Robert touched on everything. The best platform for hypertrophy, to start with 10 to 12 sets per major muscle group. I came to this conclusion on my own, and then when I started looking at some of the information Schoenfeld and them, come across, they kind of have you starting at the same place. Focus on hard work rather than volume out of the gate. Become a master of hard work. A reasonable exercise selection, reasonable variety of rep ranges, and you'll never have to worry about any of this.
Yep.
Darren, great content. Thank you. Updates on Creatine Plus. I'm 90% of the way done with the label. I've shared it with Robert and the company. I will be done with the label tomorrow. I'm just putting the UPC on and some of the romance that they call the product information. I'm going to get it to the printer this weekend. They might have it done in a week, 10 days max. Let's rock and roll. So it should be very, very soon.
Yep.
I know on the website I listed it as long as the end of May, but I tried to leave a long window in case we wouldn't hang ourselves. So, Roberts, everybody's favorite subject, nucleus overload training. Go.
My opinion is I have no idea. I've heard the term. I've never actually looked up what the training is. I don't think you probably actually need to even bother with it.
No, it's like blood flow restriction stuff. I mean, here's an article on nucleus overload training. I'm not sure why. This is from Alex Roberts over at Tiger Fitness. I commissioned it. It's a really hot thing to talk about. People get excited about nucleus overload training. I mean, blood flow restriction, not so much, because no one wants to take a big rubber thing into the gym and look like they're injecting heroin. But maybe you do. But it's whoever you're listening to, whatever you're doing, it's absolutely not needed. It's way overthinking. If you just focus on the basics like we just rambled on about, and you're natural, you're going to get to where you need to go. It's not going to expedite things at all. I don't care who's saying what. Even if it could expedite things 1% over the course of 3, 4, 5 years, it's not going to matter. It's just wasted time because everything evens out over the end. The way muscle building works is this is your natural potential. This is my natural potential. This is Robert's natural potential. The size might vary plus or minus 10%. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so you have a finite amount of mass you can put on naturally. If you expedite that 1%, you still have a finite amount of mass. You're not adding to that mass. So all these tricks and techniques and all this stuff we waste our time on, the reality is if you do the basics over 5 years, you get here. Everything else is just wasted time and energy. That's not to say you can't do it. But it won't help in the long run. It won't add to this can in the long run. You cannot add muscle fibers. So just know that. What do we got here? Scotty Mack, would you say an average of 4 to 5% per workout because every week or two is fine for my brain's exploding. No, that's no formula. It starts out fast and decreases, just like adding muscle mass. There's a rate of decay. The first year you could add. The first 6 months you could add 5 pounds every workout. The next 6 months after that you might only add 1 rep per workout. But the next 5 years after that, you might be lucky to add 1 to 2 reps to a exercise every month. So, otherwise, that's way beyond me. And your certificate's asking you for that. That's scaring me. It really is, because it's not. You can't add 4 to 5% every week Jesus, this when you scale that mathematically, that seems ridiculous. Can I show you something real quick? Let me pull up the calculator. Okay. Let me see if I can screen share a calculator. Okay. What do we got? Oh, look at this. There's a calculator right here. How come we can't supersize it? You see the calculator? Okay. So 5%. Okay. So let's just say 4. Okay. So if you're adding 4 to 5% per workout, or what is that every week? Let's say you're at 104 pounds, which is 1.04. Okay, let's back this down. Let's say you start at 95 pounds on your bench. And week 2, you're at 107. Week 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 2, 3, 4. This is where you'd be at after a year. 730-pound bench. So that whoever created that needs to be they need to be given a box of condoms and a math lesson. I'd hate to. I don't know what certification that is, but you adding 4% to your previous, that escalates really, really quickly. So
yeah.
If you want to break the bench press world record, that's probably that overload system would get you there. If it's
after 20 years of training, you'll be bench pressing Saturn at that rate.
Yes, Saturn. All right. Bree, one of my clients, excellent content. So much for info for free. Thank you. Is carb sensitivity a real thing? Robert, I'm going to let you jump in here. I'm just going to touch on this quickly. When it comes to client diets, there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that can be shaped from our hormonal profile. Testosterone, human growth hormone, cortisol, insulin, etc. And there are some people that I've worked with that at a certain calorie level, they don't really lose weight unless you dump all the crap carbs. So I don't always know the mechanism, but I've definitely seen cases like this. So with that said, Robert, carb sensitivity, what are your thoughts?
I would say yes, there is. There's going to be a genetic component to it. There's also going to be individual food sensitivity. Some people. So let's start with thinking. Yes, it is a thing. It is a real thing. I think the magnitude of effect and the ubiquity of it. So are we led to believe like the same thing with gluten? Like when the whole gluten-free movement came out, or like celiac, you would, based on what you read, you would believe that 95% of the population is celiac, when it's really like 1% of the population is actually diagnosed as celiac. So yes, is carb sensitivity a thing? Absolutely. And can you further subdivide that into, hey, certain people may get bloated from oatmeal, but they can tolerate potatoes and white rice, or maybe they don't react well to white rice, but they can handle sweet potatoes and oats, or they can do quinoa or some other kind of grain or seed, something like that. Yes, it's a thing. The magnitude of effect and the degree to which the entire world population is affected by it, I think, is massively overblown. So yeah, certain people are going to thrive better on a lower carbohydrate, higher fat, higher protein diet, while other people are going to thrive on a higher carb intake and a lower fat diet. It just depends. You've got to kind of play around with your own nutrition. And I think a lot of the times people will read something, and Sandy's got a bunch of high school girls, and so their moms read all these bullshit magazines, and the girls themselves think, oh, well, I have a sensitivity to white rice. White rice is like one of the most benign things on the planet. Like, it is super hypoallergenic. That's the stuff they make all the babies' formulas out of and all these other things, because it is so, like, it is stripped down. It is just starch by itself. So, people say, well, I'm sensitive to that. I feel bloated. I think more often than not, it's that little voice, that little insecure voice in the back of your head fucking with you, than it is an actual sensitivity to something. There are sensitivities out there. There are intolerances out there. But is it this all massive, all encompassing thing that everybody on the planet is affected by it? I don't think so.
It's funny you mentioned that, Robert, because Fiona and I were talking about rice, and one of my favorite go-tos for carbs is black and white rice mix. So, um, with that said, I love sushi. I had sushi last night,
Ooh.
and so rice is one of my main staples. I also roasted potatoes occasionally and stuff like that. But that's my wheelhouse for complex carbs. So with that established, we're joking like when we have one of our go-to meals is eggs and rice with vegetables. We have that, we feel fine the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Normal, not bloated. We have sushi with rice, we feel fine, good, normal, not bloated the next day.
Yeah.
We have bad Chinese with rice, we feel like we ate a hippopotamus.
Yeah.
And so my point is like sometimes, when people develop these weird things like rice bloats me, or this food does this, or this food does that, you really got to take a peek behind the veil to see the whole picture, right? And as far as carb sensitivity, Robert, this popped into my cranium. I believe I'm 100% accurate in this statement that when fiber is in the mix, like simple sugars, fruits and vegetables and stuff like that, that the body reacts differently than if somebody just eats simple sugars outside of the realm of fiber. Do you know anything about that, Robert, or am I off base, or what?
Well, yeah, I mean, that would slow the rate of digestion because you've got the entire food matrix and the fiber complex that has got to break through to get down those sugars. So it's going to slow digestion time. It's going to sustain and provide a more prolonged release of glucose into the bloodstream, which is going to promote more stable energy levels. You're not going to have that huge insulin spike. It's going to be more of like a smooth ride and, a decrease that way. It's not going to just spike up as if you took 6 pixie sticks and just shotgunned them real quick. So yeah, eating a whole food definitely has an effect on how your body processes, digests, utilizes, and absorbs the nutrients.
Yeah, so sometimes when we're talking about carb sensitivity, and we're talking about complex carbs, we're talking about simple carbs, we need to kind of look, like I said, a little bit deeper at the sources and things like that. So, Chris, don't forget to tickle that like button. We almost got to 100 viewers, and Robert almost had to take his shirt off.
You keep saying that, Steve. It's just you keep saying that.
One of these days. David, nut up and do your set safely. Yep.
Comment of the day. There you go.
Practice safe sets. It's funny. I told you once, Robert, people often tell you, make a t-shirt of that, and then you make a t-shirt of that, and then they don't buy them. So someone this week said, I mentioned practice safe sets in a video, and someone said, make a t-shirt of that. And I posted a link to the t-shirt I have on my website, superlivingtoday.com. Yeah. And I made a t-shirt that says practice safe sets, and I've sold absolutely of it. And I posted the link. He's like, oh, cool. And he didn't buy one. So that's how it goes.
Yeah, I've had people send me DMs like asking for training advice or like a question about the creatine complex. I said, well, hey, we've got the entire thing explained on there, or here's what we can offer for this. The second that you tell them, hey, they've got to, they're not going to be able to get everything for you from free, mum's the word.
Yeah, I'll get back to you around payday 2024.
Yeah.
As a mental health therapist, people have more control than they think. Just get in there and do it. One thing I tell my clients a lot is focus on what you can control. I had a client this week who got a new job, a nice new shiny job, which is a good step up for him. But along with that comes new stresses, change in schedules, can't go to the gym at the same time. Those are beyond his control. He's a little bit more tired, but he's like, my diet has been shit. Like no one is feeding shit into your mouth, right? Focus on what you can control. Can you control the stresses and anxieties from a new diet or a new job? There'll be an ease-in period. Let's be reasonable, right? But you can control not going over to the vending machine and doing the Cheetos or Ding Dongs or Grubhubbing. Yeah, so Think through every choice. Before you make that choice, sit your butt down for 5 minutes and say, is this the choice I want? How much control do I have over this choice? And then if you're shoving that stuff in your yake hole, your cake hole, you can at least go, I thought about it and I decided I wanted to eat cake.
Yeah.
All right. Neil, thank you, Neil, for the donation to Robert's Whiskey Bourbon Fund. Does anyone have a source for plates that are in stock? Amazon has plates that are in stock, but good grief, are they? I can find nearly everything online right now at Titan Fitness or New York Barbell or whatever. But if you find a plate, good grief, are they expensive? So I've been trying to find 10-pound plates that aren't like $7,000. So if anybody has any source of cheap plates, toss it up. We'd like to hear it. Beef, could you explain when a guy starts entering the junk volume zone? So, Robert, I made a video about hard work this week.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like your thoughts on it. I said it came to my mind that if Bob came in here and used my gym, some random guy named Bob, and he did a workout and he handed me his workout report, if I would have offered Bob $1 million to get as many reps as he could on at least one set per exercise during that workout, his performance would have increased dramatically. He would have taken progression more seriously, etc. So I basically said, if you want to understand the nature of hard work, the lifters in the gym who have that mentality but don't get the $1 million at the end of the workout are generally the ones that are maximizing their volume. Would that be a fair general statement?
Yes.
So junk volume is volume that it's not just numbers, right? You have a progression plan, great. I'm following the progression plan, great. Not always great, because there's also the mental aspect of things. Quitting when you feel like quitting. One thing I'm starting to do more and more with clients is analyzing bar speed, because I can see somebody saying, oh, it's 7 reps on overhead presses. That's all I could. And then I look at their bar speed and that 7th rep was fine. And I know they had 8 and 9 in there. They just didn't go for it.
Yeah.
Right. So junk volume is if you don't have a progression scheme and you just walk into the gym, like I'm going to do 20s on front raises today, that's typically junk volume, right? Because it has no defined purpose or point. There's a structure in a workout. There's a balance in a workout, an infrastructure, a balance. There has to be a point and purpose to everything. Junk volume is usually random with no progression approach and no heart behind it. Is that anything you want to add to that, Robert?
No, I mean, I've kind of gotten into this trap every now and then. It's like, hey, all right, you get to your sets, and then but you're thinking, oh wait, I've got to be in. So maybe you're spent. You shot your load by the time you're 45 minutes into your workout. You say, no, usually I got to be in here for 60 minutes. I got to be in here for 90 minutes. When you start throwing in exercises and doing random shit just to make sure you hit like some arbitrary time or set number that you're in the gym for, even though you can't actually put in a high degree of effort or you're mentally checked out, kind of like Steve was saying, that's when you enter the junk volume territory. If you're doing shit just to be in there longer or just think that you need to do more for doing more sake, that's the junk volume and zone.
It's funny. I have never really trained using probably more than 16 sets of workout on average.
Yeah.
But when somebody comes to train with me, they want to quit about a third of the way through that. And it's just an attitude and a heaviness. And we're going to move to the maximum weight we can use, and then we're going to follow the progression scheme safely and with control, not recklessly. And the best example I got 2 examples. When Alan Roberts came in to do his first leg day with me, he tapped out after squats and like, man, we just getting started. And Alan made a video about it after that point, after that time. He did it. He said he made a video, and I don't think it's still up on the web, where he did a leg workout with me, and I almost killed him. We weren't going on track for more than 16 sets.
Mm-hmm.
And clients come in that train with me when I was at the Tiger Fitness gym, and after bench, we'd move on a dumbbell bench and be like, I can't do it. And like, you need to up the weight and you need to do 4 sets of 10. I don't care if you think you can do it. And like, we got the tricep extensions and my wife's doing more than them. Like, this dude's been lifting for 10 years and my wife's doing more on tricep extensions than him. So there's a lot of layers to junk volume. Jeff, you mentioned last week we should go all out on the last set. I tend to go as hard as safely as I can for every set. My last set's a drop set. I don't like to make rules, but in general, for a lot of my clients, the last set is all out, and there's reasons for that. If you go all out on the first set, generally then you got to do 2 more sets, and I'd rather go 3 sets of 10 with a last set max reps as kind of an indicator. That way I'm getting in my volume and my last set is a max effort set. So it can go any way as long as there's a progression approach in the mix. My last set's a drop set. Is that okay? It can be, yeah. That's basically rest pause. So if you're doing seated cable rows and you got 150 on the stack and you're doing 3 sets of 10, you're going to throw in a drop set. You can do 10, 10, and then max safe reps. And then you can start doing drop sets, run the stack or whatever. So that's absolutely okay. Just do it safely. Sebastian, why do people think vegetables are healthy if vegetables found in nature are poisonous, such as carrots?
I mean, if you eat a chicken raw, you kill a chicken in the wilderness and then you eat it raw, you're going to get sick from that. Does that mean you shouldn't eat chicken?
Robert, is there any chemical in carrots that are considered like, there's so much talk nowadays, like nightshade vegetables, we can't eat them because of this, and this vegetables we can't, and you can't digest this in beans, therefore you shouldn't eat beans. There's a lot of that chatter, but I've never heard anything like that regarding carrots. Maybe I missed that bus.
Maybe like he's referring to like we've manipulated the carrot genome over the past few decades to make them bigger and sweeter than what they used to be. I would encourage Sebastian to go check out the recent podcast I did with Dr. Gabrielle Fundero on the Supplement Engineer. We get into the whole anti-nutrients hysteria and panic that's kind of thrown about by the carnivore and paleo and keto communities.
Yeah.
With proper preparation, cooking, all of that stuff, most of those are neutralized, and you don't even have to worry about them. There are beneficial things in vegetables. There's a bunch of different flavonoids, polyphenols, antioxidants, which have been shown to have anti-cancer effects, antioxidant effects, anti-inflammatory benefits, things that improve cardiovascular health, blood flow, all kinds of really good things that are in these foods.
The best way to approach nutrition is not with a rifle, but it's with a shotgun. You do not use one bullet. You use a spray of, a broad range of micronutrient-rich foods.
Yep.
And that comes with protein sources, that comes with fats, and that comes with fruits and veggies.
Yeah.
So anybody that's saying all veggies are poisonous, is probably out in the field somewhere licking a cow's ass and with his carnivore shirt on, and I'm not saying you are, Sebastian, but there are people like that out there, that are like, I've had questions like that before, like veggies are poisonous and carnivore people are getting really radical,
Yeah.
So.
Very few times in life is being an extremist to one way or the other on an issue a sustainable or the right way to go about things. Usually there's a somewhere in the middle.
If I could give anybody a real simple piece of life advice, it would generally be, don't go black, don't go white, wear a gray shirt every day. Stay in the middle somewhere. hide safely. You're probably going to be okay. Danielle, thoughts on Smoloff Jr.? No. Too many people seek out these programs, and there's just too many downsides, overuse, beating up the body. I've known a couple people over the years that have used programs like this to, more intense programs like this to pack stuff on. But 90% of people that come to me with these programs aren't doing the fundamentals right to begin with. And if they would just do the basics, they wouldn't need programs like this. You really don't need programs like this. They just add in variables that generally contribute to overuse and beating up the body that just really aren't worth it. Unnecessarily, unnecessary amounts of volume or frequency that just increases risk injury for no reason at all. Most people are impatient or inconsistent, and that cures that. I'm not against people trying it once they're intermediates. Just know the downsides. But I really don't like programs like this that are off the ranch, because I'm a bulldozer guy, slow, steady, straight ahead. That'll cure everything that ails you in life. Raw milk contains growth hormone. Okay. I mean,
we're getting some interesting things from Sebastian. He's a regular commenter. We're getting some off the rails stuff from him this week.
What's going on, buddy? I mean, you're a little bit different today. Unless you're out milking your cows and growing your own food, I mean, that's the safest way to go. I would never argue with that, right? And the beef and dairy and stuff like that, that industry is far from perfect. But does that mean it's inherently unsafe? It shouldn't be digested?
And do you have the data showing what the levels of these hormones in the milk are? And plus, most of these hormones, the reason that bodybuilders inject these hormones is that your body breaks them down, like they're neutralized in the stomach and cleaved off in anything with no deleterious effects.
The thought, Robert, that we give cattle a growth hormone. Obviously, chickens are bigger and turkeys are bigger and cows are bigger.
Yeah.
No doubt. I'm not being dismissive of that, but what correlation is there for putting hormones into an animal and what goes into our stomach?
It's greatly exaggerated, like the magnitude of effect of those things. Like any amount of hormones that leach into like the pasteurized milk and all the stuff that you drink, not raw milk, but I'm saying like the other types of milk and like the regular meats and all that, it is so infinitesimally small. You really don't have any concern about ingesting the antibiotics or the growth hormone and all these other things that you're talking about. You would have read about it more, and there's not like some big conspiracy by big meat or big dairy to suppress this data, like or the governments or anything like that. I think that's more conspiracy theorist shenanigans. I worked it in a normal way this week. We got shenanigans in. There we go.
Shenanigans. I would love, in a perfect world, I would love all my food to be homegrown and squeaky clean and, as close to farm to table as possible, without, in a perfect world, I'd like to have my own chickens in my own garden and frolic nude through the woods and not have a job and all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying, Robert?
Yep.
And there's meat services that have organic, farm raised, and they seem very appealing until you look at the price tag, and it's life is full of decisions, and there exists a supply chain, and it's like sometimes it's painted evil, where it has streamlined a lot of the issues we've had with food supply. So are there pluses and minuses? Yes. This goes back to the black and white type of thinking. Oh no, it has this, therefore the world's going to end. Black and white, So speaking of black and white thinking, alcohol and tacos. If anything, that to me is like it's Friday. Let's have some alcohol and tacos.
Yep.
I'm behind that.
I'm game.
Depression and anxiety becomes normal and comfortable. Yeah. And, there are some people that seem to live in that zone. And David, you probably know more about it than I do. I believe you said you're a counselor or whatnot. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at some point for some people, they feel comfortable in that bubble of depression and anxiety. It's almost like a comfort blanket to them. And, I've sensed it and seen it in some of my clients. Sebastian, I like lifting, but I don't want to end up like V shreds. Just keep studying. Just keep learning from the reasonable people and fact checking everything and avoiding really fringe information. Marshall D, I'm doing 5 sets of 5 to 12 for compounds on a push-pull leg split. I mean, no number is inherently junk volume. If you can, the thing I'll say is if you can do a push-pull leg split 6 days a week and you're pushing 20 plus sets per workout, it might not be junk volume, but there's a train about to smack you in the face called injury. I have some people that just love being in the gym, and I get it, love being in the gym. But, we can't say that without looking at the results. I mean, if you've been lifting for 3 years and your bench press is a $145, that's probably a lot of junk volume, right? You're moving a lot of weight, but not getting anywhere. It's like a tantrum. You're sitting in the middle of Walmart screaming, flailing your arms with energy being expended, but not a lot of positivity going on. So hard to say. Bilal, I just posted Bilal on my Instagram today. Did you happen to see that, Robert?
Not yet.
All right. So before we begin the festivities, I'm going to show you. Of course, I want to continue as me. Hold on. I tried to pull up my Instagram. Oh my God! Now we detected an unusual login attempt.
Uh-oh. The Russians have hacked you.
Yeah, that's me. Hold on. Oh, here's my code. Thank you very much. Whoop. Yes, this was me. For the love of God, it didn't. I was typing it in. It didn't let me do it. Hold on. I think we got it. Yes, continue as me for the love of all things holy. It's just spinning its wheels. So anyway, I was going to show you Bilal's. Now it's saying we detected. Yes, it's me. Good grief! It just did it again. Now I got to go through this, or it's going to shank my. Isn't this fun, ladies and gentlemen? All right, whatever. I'm out of here. What supplements are actually worth taking for joint health, Robert?
We can look at this from a couple of different ways. So we can look at supplements that support the body's ability to kind of regenerate the materials that contribute to like building up stronger joints, ligaments, and connective tissue. So that would be things like hydrolyzed collagen peptides, MSM, glucosamine, chondroitin, UC2 collagen, which is made from chicken sternal cartilage. You could also just buy like a super cheap pack of like Jello, like sugar-free Jello or gelatin, instead of spending money on these really overpriced collagen peptides things. So just gelatin is that's all collagen is. It's hydrolyzed gelatin is what collagen peptides are. Then you can look at some anti-inflammatory things because sometimes, especially with rheumatoid arthritis, that's an inflammation in and around the joints, which can lead to joint degradation. So you'd want to look at things like curcumin or turmeric, preferably complex with some kind of bioavailability enhancer like a bioperin. You could look at that. You could look at what else? Bromelain is a digestive enzyme, but it's also got some anti-inflammatory benefits in there as well. Andrographis paniculata is another one. The Paractin is the name brand of it. Natural eggshell membrane is another really good one. And there's a couple of other ingredients that are going to be featured in the massive joint formula that we got coming out.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. Anything we put out is going to be sexy stuff we would want to take. Andre, and you know what? You know what? David just purchased the Practice Safe Sets tank top. Thank you.
There we go.
First one. At 56 and generally no back problems, my lower back is toast today after squats and deadlifts. Any idea? The common issue, Andre, and 90% of the squats and deadlifts I look at, form help. Deadlifts are over the bar, heads over the bar, weights over the bar, weight isn't on their heels. They're yanking instead of trying to stand up. Squat form is even worse than deadlift form generally. So I would say 90% of the issues I see with lower back are related to form, and you really want somebody to look at form. And I would love to just sit and say, buy form assessments. I've kind of gotten out of the business of form assessments myself for other than my clients, but you really need somebody to look at it. I will look at a video for free. You can send it to Instagram at Ben the Barman, slide it into my DM, and I'll give you a few pointers. I can tell you, hey, you're a little bit rough. You might improve here or there, or nope, it's your lower back because your form is good. Leon, I bought theanine, tyrosine, caffeine, and citrulline malate for my own pre-workout. What would you add?
I'd remove the theanine just because I hate theanine in pre-workouts. But if you get jittery or anxious or edgy with caffeine, then you can keep the theanine in there. But it confers no performance benefits. That's just, I don't like the ingredient in pre-workouts. On top of that, for you making your own pre-workout, I like Elevate ATP, which is good. What else would be some good? Nitrosogene, although you've got citrulline malate in there already, so nitrosogene would be kind of redundant. Maybe some source of polyphenols, like a gram of pomegranate extract or 300 milligrams of grapeseed extract. That's going to kind of support nitric oxide production, blood flow, exercise your ability to mitigate fatigue resistance through a different pathway than just pure citrulline malate, which is just going to increase the arginine levels in the blood. Grapeseed extract increases endothelial nitric oxide synthase, which is the actual enzyme that converts the citrulline and the arginine into nitric oxide. It's also got some vasorelaxive properties, which means it's going to open the pipes to allow for greater blood flow in there. Betaine, I like that as an osmolyte. It's going to encourage cellular hydration. It's also got some good data on strength, power, performance, lean body mass, accretion, things like that. It kind of depends. I like teacrine in there. It's a longer lasting thing that kind of synergizes with caffeine as far as focus and energy. It's not purely like a muscle building or performance ingredient, but I like the cognitive enhancing and focus effects of it. Maybe 250 to 300 milligrams of CDP choline as well. Again, that's more for the focus aspect of your workout, and it'll work well with tyrosine on the dopamine pathways in the body. Outside of that, if you can get your hands on some Vasodrive AP, that's going to be harder to get a hold of. But if you could, 508 milligrams of that is really nice, as is a couple of grams of some kind of nitrate, like a potassium nitrate, sodium nitrate. Finding that is going to be hard to do. Or Vaso 6, instead of grapeseed extract, you could get some Vaso 6. That would be really good as well. So any and all of those are some options that you could get.
Robert, what would you think about going old school and adding some cocaine?
Love it. Perfect. Do it right now. Okay. Multiple lines.
Just humor, people. Just humor. Sometimes I wonder, I don't know, if that was actually used back in the day. Beef Lewis, thoughts on Silver Surfer having absolutely zero role or mention in the Infinity Wars movie? Marvel has done a great job of rolling out some of their minor heroes, people that like Ant-Man and things that aren't like super sexy, but making them interesting. But there are some folks in the Marvel universe that have, been kind of underplayed or marginalized or not. Silver Surfer, I would say, is one of them.
Well, I think part of that goes into, so when Marvel was going through its financial troubles in the early 90s, it started selling off a bunch of its different properties to the different movie studios. And then when it finally came back in stock, then they started having to get all these properties back. And so when they did that, they sold off certain ones. So that's why you see like Fox Studios was releasing the X-Men movies, Deadpool, the Fantastic Four, and that's Silver Surfer was lumped in with the Fantastic Four. So Marvel Studios, when they started, didn't have access to those movies. That's why you didn't see Spider-Man in the first few Avengers movies, because that was part of with Sony. And that's why you haven't seen the Fantastic Four or any of the X-Men jump into any of the MC universes, because Fox still holds all those properties. And as long as they spit out some movie like every 5 or 10 years or something, they get to retain those rights, because there's something worked into the clause where if they let the properties die and they don't pump out some shitty movie every now and then they have to kick the rights back to Marvel, who I guess is Disney now. But yeah, like I've read the Infinity Gauntlet and the Infinity War graphic novels. We have got the omnibuses back over there in the reading room. And I mean, it's the role that like Captain America, Iron Man, Scarlet Witch, all those play in those is so much more minimal than what you actually see in the movies. It's night and day. Like Silver Surfer is like the main guy. Him and Adam Warlock are like two of the main guys in the Infinity War and the Infinity Gauntlet with Thanos. And there's no mention of either Warlock or Silver Surfer in that. So it's you almost need to call it two different things, because it's nowhere near that. And in the books, they don't call them Infinity Stones; they're the Infinity Gems. In the movies, they call them Infinity Stones. And basically all of the Avengers that we see and know that are in the movies get whacked off with Thanos. Like he kills them all, and then he does his snap, and that's when half the population goes away, to where it's only Silver Surfer and Warlock that are left around. It's two different beasts. It's such a difference between what the comic books did and what the movies is. And fortunately, I saw the movies before I read the comics, because I can only imagine like reading the comics and go and see that. You're wondering how in the where the hell do you get off calling it this, but you're actually saying this storyline. So yeah, I love the Marvel, the MCU movies, everything up until Endgame. I haven't really liked anything past that much, like especially like the newer Spider-Man movies. That was dog shit in my opinion. I didn't really even like Captain Marvel all that much. It was okay. It just wasn't great. I'm kind of taking a pause on the Marvel movies right now. Like I'm gonna leave it with Endgame, and then that's just gonna be it.
Well, I would. This is probably a discussion that'll take us into a world of craziness, but Disney is getting woke, and I don't think they're going woke in a good woke way. For example, what I'm about to say is should be prefaced by the fact that over the years I've had a lot of gay bear followers, big, strong, gay men. The gay bears are big. They like to eat. They like to lift generally, and they're very macho. They're very masculine. A lot of times on television, and this is going somewhere, so hang tough. A lot of times on television, feminine, stereotypes of gay men, and sometimes it's borderline insulting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So woke Marvel put out a Captain America, a new Captain America, in whatever way, shape, or form, that is a gay man that looks very skinny, effeminate, super, almost like, I don't know. I'm not a gay man, so I'm not going to say, but it almost felt offensive to me because it was so cliche on the effeminate side. And like, why does a gay man have to have no muscle and be weak? I don't know. Most of the gay men I know aren't like that. Most of them hit the gym more than the straight men. I don't know. It was like, but that stuff aside, woke Marvel is like, I have nothing. Marvel has always been, for me, and I started with Marvel back in the early 70s. The place where the weirdos and the oddballs and the people that didn't fit in, Parker was a nerd back in the 70s. That wasn't a great thing. And, Daredevil was blind, and we had the Black Panther, and we had different things. We could be exposed to different things, right? And I have no problem with gay superheroes. I have no problem anything really, but like, I don't see the need to turn Spider-Man into this or Captain America into that. Why not just create a new generation of heroes?
Yeah, don't destroy like the classics of what they were. And that's part of my issue with the new Spider-Man movies. They've completely changed everything around. So like I'm going back and rereading all the original Amazing Spider-Man. I've got the volume 2 omnibus of it. Mary Jane's got a completely different attitude. Like her original attitude is so much different than the bullshit like aloof girl that's going the whole time in the movies. Flash Thompson wasn't this little geek walking around with the selfie stick saying, "Look at me, check me out, guys." He was a fucking guy that got drafted and went into the army and fought for America, not this little douchebag. But the only thing they got right is that he has a fetish for Spider-Man. I mean that in a good way. Like he's a huge fan of Spider-Man, and he kind of picked on Peter Parker. But in the comic books, he was a jock. He wasn't this little douchebag that is just trying to like get more Insta followers. It's just, I fucking hate. Just go back to the way things used to be. Let things lie. Stop trying to shove your own socio-political economic views down my throat.
My wife is a costume designer amongst many things, and she loves period pieces, and she loves the history of fashion. And we watch a lot of period dramas. And it's troubling that they try to force feed racial diversity into period pieces where it wasn't there. And that sounds racist, but like we don't try to force feed white people into the Black Panther movie. It is a snapshot of what it is, right? We don't try to like in a martial arts movie set in China. We don't try to force like a person of color or white people into something just for racial diversity. It is what it is, right? So, but there's a lot more period pieces where like that's not
historically accurate, yeah.
Even to the point where like a white somebody from the UK, from 1800s will have a black daughter, and like it's just really awkward at times. It's anyway. Wash hands. Patty Leather, do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now. Tai Chi makes me think of knockaround guys. Why haven't I not seen that movie?
Me either.
Dave Argentino, Tai Chi is cool to think of as a shadow grappling, like shadow boxing for grappling. I've seen some people try to apply it in a harder core martial arts way, but things like that are more appealing for me just as general movement. So I'm no expert. Thank you, Daniel. We appreciate it. Cody, what's up? What's the most amount of weight you guys have ever lifted on the bench squats? And when I was near 346 pounds, and all these videos are on this channel, so go check them out. 315 on overhead press seated behind the neck in front. Dumbbell rows 270 by 10. Barbell rows 405 by 5. Squat like 640 for a double with chains. Bench 500 with chains. And deadlift like a rack pull from 5 inches, like 730 by 4. So Robert's not really a max guy.
I live in the 8 to 10, 12, 15, 20 rep range with all my stuff. I've never actually maxed out on any lift. So I would have no idea.
My favorite accomplishment is RDLing. Like I walked into a Gold's Gym and I was training with wheelchair professional bodybuilder Rich Knapp, the first wheelchair natural to ever win a pro card, a friend of mine. And we walked into a Gold's Gym, and it was leg day for me. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to start doing RDLs. They had one of those bars I bent like a noodle that was only meant to hold like 2 pounds. And I worked up to 645 on the RDL. And the bar's like, and I'm like, man, I'm just, you're like, fuck this shit. I'm going to do this because I'm working out and I don't care if the bar's 200 pounds. But I already yelled to about that far off the ground, 635, 645, whatever it was. That was one of my favorite lifts of all time because when I go back and look at the footage, this might sound egotistical or weird, but you go back and look at the video, like everybody in the gym stopped to watch. And sometimes it's a thing to like, hey, I accomplished something in life. Anthony, compound versus isolations. It's not an either or, it's a both. You need a mix of both. You just can't do one or the other. The basis of hypertrophy is progressive overload and hard work. And you can't just do progressive overload and hard work on isolations because there's not that they don't have value. Every exercise is different, but you need both. Anything to add, Robert?
Nope, both.
Never met a muscular guy who didn't do a lot of compound movements for a lot of weight. Never. Don't exist. Even the guys that tell you they're weak, they just think they're weak in a powerlifting standpoint, but they are strong. Doug Miller, 4 or 5 for like 27 reps on deadlift. I'm weak. Okay, Doug, right. Cody, also thoughts on doing heavy singles? No, not year round. No way. No way. That's a fast track to jacking your shit up, especially on deadlifts. I never advocate training above 90%. Squats, you're going to tear your shit up. You're going to get hurt. No way. Bench, you can train above 85%, have it more forgiving in general. But once you reach, intermediate strength levels, you got to have off-season periods of building, where you train more like a bodybuilder, a power builder, and then have seasons where you might have a peaking program. But peaking is not singles year-round. That's a fast track to Disasterville. No matter what you see on the internet. Thank you guys for answering. Sticking to the basics that you always preach. And you're welcome. I'm glad it helps. Joshua Webb, interdasting. I'm not sure what you're referencing, Joshua. I like oatmeal better, carbs, but never had a problem with rice. I don't mind oatmeal. I like proteins. That's probably my second major complex carb choice. Are you an oatmeal fan, Robert?
I do like it every now and then. I don't typically do whole bowls of oats. Like every now and then when I get a craving for it, like when you get that first cold snap of the fall or winter, I'll start to get a craving for oatmeal. But usually I use that as the grain base for my protein waffles that I make. So I'll do 30 grams of oats, 56 grams of cottage cheese, 56 grams of egg whites, a cap full of one of those 0-calorie syrups, a pinch of baking powder, a pinch of salt, buzz all that up, throw that in my Belgian waffle maker, and you've got a very macro-friendly waffle that doesn't really need anything else. I'll usually make 2 of those, and that's around 500, 550 calories, 40 grams of protein, and the rest carbs and fats.
I find oatmeal to be one of the most satisfying foods to eat in the morning. Mm-hmm. Like when I eat it, I'm not hungry for a long time afterwards. But when we do it, we mix in a little bit of water, half scoop of protein powder, and a Greek yogurt, and we let it sit overnight. Like overnight oats. And if I eat that in the morning, I'm not thinking about food for at least 3 hours.
Yeah.
So only carb I have problems with is potatoes. We do roasted potatoes with roasted zucchini and a little bit of olive oil, thyme, salt, and pepper. And if you guys have never tried that, that's a simple treat. But I never have an issue with potatoes. I don't like to overeat them, though. What do we got? Scotty, sorry, I should have said 4 to 5% for the entire workout overall between 9 exercises. So it would average 0.5%. It's a 12-week program. Mathematically, I think that would still explode. I do. I don't want to do the math, but a half percentage a half percent times a half percent times a half percent is going to blow up. It's going to take the Hulk and he's going to increase by this degree and then this degree and then this degree. That's how math works. When you keep a multiplier like that. So in reality, it would be a decreasing multiplier over time, diminishing multiplier. So mathematically, does that make sense, Robert? I'm not sure how much of a math nerd you are, but the multiplier would be diminishing.
Correct.
Sorry about the caps lock. No problem. Okay. Is rutin effective for hemorrhoids? I thought it said Putin for a moment.
Is Putin effective for hemorrhoids? Sure. Never mind. I have another comment in the back of my head. I'm not gonna say that on air. Never mind. All right. So rutin. I'm gonna found there is a meta-analysis and review I found on rutin because it is it's a complex of quercetin, which is a very popular, fairly prominent antioxidant in the body. It's complex to a polysaccharide. Here's what the review said about the vascular benefits of rutin. It says, generally, rutin has been known for its benefits in strengthening capillaries and blood vessels. This makes rutin highly beneficial for the whole body and especially in any condition associated with capillary weakness or venous deficiency. Therefore, rutin has been used in treating bruises, spider veins, and varicose veins, along with amelioration of the concomitant symptoms such as edema or swelling. Rutin was also found to bring relief in dealing with hemorrhoids, which are swollen veins in the anus or rectum. And when administered to patients after a hemorrhoidectomy, it has been claimed to have superior effects in improving hemorrhoidal and post-surgical symptoms. So based on the very limited study, they only quote 2 studies in this write-up of where it's been used in the case of hemorrhoids. Yes, it appears there's evidence to suggest that it may be beneficial in helping that, and that it's going to improve the capillaries that are weakening, so it can strengthen the weak capillaries that are causing the hemorrhoids in the first place. So in that study, they were using it as part of a topical cream, I believe.
Uh-oh, we have a special guest entering the studio. What's up?
Hi, Fiona. She walked in on us talking about hemorrhoids and anal fissures and everything.
That sauce is getting pretty big, by the way.
He's gotten long. And he likes lots of attention.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
We have a game we play at night called Bed Weirdos, where he jumps in the bed and just runs around the bed like crazy, trying to lick my ear off.
I told him never to say that word.
Bed weirdos. All right, we go from hemorrhoids to bed weirdos. Where are we going next, Steve?
Okay, you take the bed weirdo one.
Okay. Bye.
You get my new computer. All right, my new computer is in. Thank the Lord Jesus. Dave Argentino, I make plates out of concrete. Yep, that's old school, but
that's awesome.
I've seen back in the day. I've seen people make stones. Like their own lifting stones, set concrete molds, that sort of thing. As an intermediate, I've always trained trying to do as many safe reps as possible, but I keep seeing people saying you should only have one progression set, like 8-8 max. That's kind of what I do with a lot of people because, look, once you reach kind of a strength base, pushing every set to the limit can be mentally tough. So I personally, when I am doing an exercise, I control the eccentric, not slow the eccentric, but control the eccentric. And, sometimes I forget I've trained like a bodybuilder for 35 years. And I've progressed in my strength using those bodybuilding tactics. So I think that's a good approach. If you do the first set max and you get like 12 reps, you're going to have a rate of decay where you're going to have like 8 and then 6 reps, and that's fine. You can use the first set as all out. I prefer to use the last set simply because I'd rather, blast the energy at the end than at the beginning. But it's just, it's just easier to get volume. 8, 8, and 12, 8, 8, and 11, opposed to 11, 8, and 6. Usually there's a greater rate of decay. Concrete plates. Yep, old school. Can I squat the day after deadlifts? It's not the best idea. I'd rather have you deadlift the day after squats. Am I working out at home, but I do not have a lot of weights, so I do a lot of reps? First off, I'd probably not do a lot of reps on deadlifts. I'd probably focus your back training on doing a lot of reps on rows, Meadows rows, barbell rows, Pendley rows, inverted rows, pull-ups, etc. I probably wouldn't beat up your lower back even with volume. It's just not a lot of ROI. Squats, you're probably going to get a little bit more ROI out of that. But with that said, I'd rather, excuse me, I don't know. It really depends on your form. I don't like them back to back. There's no reason really to do them on back to back days. So, Tack. Betnex set 6 feet mold casting concrete weight plates. Now available on Amazon.com. I'm going to be 58 years old, and all my workouts are on cruise control, just maintaining. Right there with you, Paul. So are mine. People ask me all the time, you're running? Are you getting weak? Yeah, I'm getting real weak. I do 225 for 5x10 on bench. You know, I hope to be able to do that when I'm 70. I don't get under 400 pounds anymore, but I still do what I always did, just with more volume and lighter weight. And you know what? Maintenance is a great place to be. John, which of your programs do you recommend for an upper-lower 4-day split with no machines? If you're working out at home, basically any of them. But, you know, when you're working out at home, you got to replace the hack squat. You got to replace the leg press. You got to replace the leg extension. You got to replace the leg curl. And that usually comes down to RDLs, lunges, Bulgarian split squats, pause jump squats. It's the same thing, no matter what program you're running, really. I have an upper-lower book on my website, superlivingtoday.com program. That's probably the best place to start. But no matter what program you do, you're going to have to replace the same stuff with the same stuff on legs. All right, Shiv. I've started doing push A, pull A, legs A, rest, push B, pull B, off, legs B. How many sets is optimal for long run per workout? You basically want to start with the same amount of sets per week. Basically 12 for major muscle group. On back, maybe upwards of 15. And on minor muscle groups, 6 to 9 per week. That's a good starting point. And sorry, we're breezing through things, trying to get everything done. David, picked up a Safe Sets tank. David, you're the first one. Send me a picture when you get it, please. For progress, I'm using your 3 sets of 10 with same weight. You increase 5 pounds. Yeah, I would start in that range. That's going to seem a little bit light on a push-pull legs, but start in that range and then maybe add 3 sets per major body part if you feel you can handle it and you're covering to it. Robert, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Robert, are you there? I'm having sort of an internet hiccup. Sorry, I had the internet just puked here for a split second. Hold on, folks. We're trying to get things working here.
Commies are hacking.
Thoughts on neck training? No. It's a waste of time. And it's an absolute waste of time. Most people want to do neck training. If you want to get a big neck, it's going to require 4 to 5 years of hypertrophy. You can get a big neck with 4 to 5 years of hypertrophy without training neck. Like every lifter I know that is big has never trained their neck, and their neck's big. It's just the way it works. You don't have to train your neck. You don't have to train your jaw. You don't have to train really your forearms. It's just like the thing is, like guys that haven't built a lot of muscle will become infatuated with building a big neck. First, you got to learn to build muscle. And if you learn how to build muscle, you're not going to need to train your neck anyway because it's just going to grow.
Yep.
David said, yes, I'm a counselor. People need support and encouragement to get through most anything. Amanda P., how important is your macronutrient split? Robert, I've been babbling on. I'm going to let you start with this one.
Deciding how I want to tackle this. How important is it if you are interested in maximizing muscle growth and or retaining muscle while dieting for fat loss? It is important. The most important thing is to consume enough protein each day. So you're going to want somewhere in the ballpark of a gram per pound of body weight, around lean body mass. So if you're somebody that is very over fat, like you're 250 pounds and you're like 5 foot nothing, you don't need to be consuming 250 grams of protein. Let's say you ideally want to be 130 pounds and you currently weigh 170 pounds. You don't need to eat 170 grams of protein a day. You need to eat around 130 grams of protein a day. Outside of that, the ratio between carbohydrates and fats, once you satisfy your minimum threshold of fat, so around 0.3 grams per pound of body weight is kind of like that minimum threshold I like to see, and what most of the research indicates is like the minimum amount you need to just satisfy that you're consuming enough dietary fat and getting enough essential fatty acids in to satisfy all the basic requirements of the body. You can basically have the rest of your remainder of your calories as you see fit, split evenly between carbs, fats, and protein. It doesn't really matter for the average individual. If you're a physique athlete, is it going to probably behoove you to go with a lower fat approach, since the body so readily and easily can take the fat that you ingest and store it in adipocytes much more efficiently than it can either converting excess carbohydrates or excess protein into fat? Yes, there would be some benefit for that. But for like the average Jimmys, Joes, and Janes out there, once you satisfy your basic amounts of protein per day, so at least 1 gram per pound of body weight per day, and at least 0.3 grams per pound of fat per day, the remaining calories can be split any which way you want, and it largely won't have any meaningful effect for the average individual.
Thanks, Robert. We're going to jump right over to One Tray 9. Is 3-day full body enough to maintain the gains? Absolutely. 2 days enough. If I want to maintain gains, you could drop down to 2-day, maybe 2 sets per exercise. You'd be fine. There's some good information. I was reading about this on from Schoenfeld and some others, and they basically come to the same conclusion everybody comes to. Maintaining is super, super easy, and you don't need the same amount of volume. Lindsay, any thoughts on doing a bro split interspersed with the odd upper lower week? Yeah, you can really do anything. Comes down to the structure. I like doing funky things like this, but you just got to make sure recovery time is built in, that you don't have too long between workouts. Like you don't want to have like 12 days between chest workouts, because sometimes with a bro split and an upper lower, things can get funky. But yeah, it can work.
Yeah.
Thoughts on beetroot? Why is it called a superfood?
Superfood is largely a marketing term just invented by people that are trying to pull one over on consumers. There's nothing that makes one fruit or vegetable a superfood compared to something else. Maybe outside of its ORAC status, which is how much of it's a proxy for its antioxidant and polyphenol and flavonoid content and all of those things. So beetroot has a bunch of fun little bioactives, antioxidants, polyphenols, flavonoids in there. And these have some beneficial effects on the vascular system of the body. So it can stimulate endothelial nitric oxide synthase. It can encourage vasorelaxation. So it enhances nitric oxide production and causes your blood vessels to relax, which is going to make them open up a little bit wider. Blood flow goes through better. Beetroots also have a certain nitrate content, which again, that is another path by which you can boost nitric oxide. So we often tend to focus on the citrulline, arginine, nitric oxide pathway. So you take citrulline, it gets converted into arginine, and then it gets converted into nitric oxide. Nitrates are a different pathway. So we've got nitrates, nitrites, and then nitric oxide. It gets reduced that way. Beetroots do contain some natural nitrates, as do things like arugula, spinach, and other things like that. But however, the amount of beetroot powder that you would need to consume, since the concentration of nitrates is so low in beetroots, we're talking like 5 to 10%, you would need to consume grams and grams and grams of beetroot powder. And probably by the time you consume enough beetroot powder, you probably end up you consume enough oxalates and other kind of things that are going to contribute towards kidney stones. So anytime you see beetroot in a pre-workout, it is massively underdosed, and you're not going to get much of any effect from it, aside from, like, you're not going to get the benefits of nitrates from beetroot extract. If you want actual nitrates, get sodium nitrate, betaine nitrate, citrulline nitrate, creatine nitrate, something like that. Beetroot can give you some polyphenols, but you can also get those same ones from pomegranate extract, grapeseed extract, Vaso-6, those kinds of things. So it is largely in there for marketing and hype, because people think, oh, beetroot's rich in nitrates, I'm going to get a massive pump from this. No, you're getting such a minuscule amount of nitrates. It's not really going to have any meaningful effect on your performance that way. with that the case, so just don't even buy into the beetroot height for a pre-workout. It's going to have next to no effect, in my opinion, because the nitrate concentration is so low. You would need grams upon grams upon grams of the stuff.
Thanks, Robert. We're going to slam you with a couple more out the door here. Speaking of slamming, Big Bear's body slamming Captain America. Welcome to 2021. All right. Is magnesium supplement absorption inhibited when taken with certain foods?
There are certain compounds within foods that can inhibit magnesium uptake to a certain degree. So we're talking about like some of the anti-nutrients you see in things like phytates, oxalates. Certain types of fibers can impair intestinal absorption of magnesium to a certain degree. That being said, is it something you need to be overly concerned about? Unless you're like megadosing raw spinach or improperly processed beans, do you really need to worry about it all that much? Probably not. At best, take your magnesium supplement a couple of hours away from your food, or take it, 45 minutes before you eat a meal or something like that, or take it right before you go to bed, or 2 hours after you've had a meal. That way your stuff's kind of gotten through your system and the magnesium supplement can do its work. Also, make sure you're using actually a bioavailable form of magnesium. So some kind of chelated magnesium form, or maybe a mag citrate or magnesium L-threonate. Don't go for a magnesium oxide. That's a dog shit thing. It's got like 10%, 15% bioavailability.
All right. Thank you, Robert. And Jerome, tryptophan makes me more sleepy than 5-HTP. Does it do the other ingredients?
I don't know which product you're talking about. So are you taking the 5-HTP with sour cherry and lemon balm, and then you're not taking tryptophan with those other things? That's where I'm kind of confused by the question, Jerome. Go ahead, Steve.
I'm sorry, Robert. I'm just going to mention Jerome's an insider. So, Jerome, I would probably maybe you could head over the forum and post on Robert saying, specifically what you're taking, if you feel that's even needed, Robert.
Yeah. Go ahead and post the question there, because that'll be easier to do this. I'll just say, I'll talk on like a high level here of stuff. So tryptophan is an essential amino acid. It gets converted into 5-HTP, which is a direct precursor to serotonin. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that's associated with feelings of well-being, happiness, good mood, all that good stuff. So serotonin is then subsequently converted into melatonin, which is the hormone of the body that regulates the circadian rhythm, the sleep-wake cycle, and all that stuff. So by supplementing with tryptophan, you could increase levels of 5-HTP, which are then converting and increasing levels of serotonin and melatonin. So that's why you see that ingredient typically in sleep aids. Be careful with supplementing with too much direct 5-HTP, just because over supplementing with that and not supplementing with enough dopamine precursors can lead to an imbalance between serotonin and dopamine. And so if you over supplement with too many dopaminergic things like L-Dopa, you cause this imbalance between the two, and that can lead to some really, really unfortunate things as far as your neurotransmitters. It can really jack up with your mood, memory, motivation, those kind of things. Tyrosine, so tryptophan is with the other ingredients. We're not comparing apples to apples here. You've got tryptophan with a bunch of other ingredients that I don't know. Post this question in the forum, Jerome, and I can take a look at the supplement. List out the exact supplement and all of that stuff, and I can write everything in there. But yeah, just 5-HTP on its own, it can support better sleep. But if you're taking tryptophan with 16 other ingredients, I mean, those are going to have some effects contributing towards you helping to fall asleep at night. So we're not really making light comparisons here.
And Robert, we got one last comment. Hold on. Is this live stream going to be saved? There's a save, Robert. There's a big save.
There we go.
There's a save right there.
The Cavs defenders are dead tired. Backside look. Oh!
Save.
Spectacular. Braden Holby.
All our live streams are saved. We save everything except last week because that didn't it. Because so, Robert, what are you doing this weekend?
Sandy's going to pick up the halfling from school today. They're going to go do mommy-daughter dinner. I'm going to stay at home and work this afternoon while they're doing that, while enjoying a nice bourbon. Tomorrow, usual stuff. Sandy will be working on her coursework. I'll be hanging out with the halfling in the morning, upper body workout. Final Scoop podcast, 1 o'clock on Supplement Engineer YouTube channel, 1 p.m. Central. Everybody go over there, listen to us banter about all things supplements. Then after that, we'll probably head out to Iron Wolf Distillery in lovely Spicewood, Texas for some live music, pizza, and bourbon. Sunday is pretty much the exact same thing. Meal prep, hang out with a halfling in the morning while Sandy works. Leg workout, and hanging out in the afternoon around here.
Sounds fun. We have a 3-hour run tomorrow. And I'm putting together a home office upstairs so I can. We have an upper and lower. The lower is the storefront, and we don't like to walk downstairs or through the street, so we're putting up a home office upstairs so I can be more productive.
Cool.
So we're doing that. Out of the Park 22 is released today. I'm a baseball simulation nerd, and that was released today, so I can't wait to dive into that and mess around with that a little bit. And we are working, for those of you tuning in a little bit later than here, we're finalizing Massive Creatine Plus, the label. I'll be working on that this weekend. And Robert and I have been working on the background on getting an app developed. The goal is to have every bit of content, videos, all my workouts, everything, articles, everything available on the app. So you can go on the app, you can search workout, and you can see it, and you can actually move it to your profile and start doing it and tracking it and all that kind of good stuff. I'm working on that as well. So I've had like 3 meetings in 4 days to try to set up my own app. So that's going to be exciting because I want you guys. The goal is with the app, you guys can log on. You can go to the private forum. You can go to our workouts. You can go to our content. On phone or on desktop, and that's the end goals. And we're almost to the start of the baseball season, so I'm anxious for that because it'll be a full season. It'll be a little bit of normalcy injected back into life. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. Appreciate it, Robert. Thank you as always, and we'll see you next Friday.
Bye.